Welcome. It's nice to have you here. I hope you enjoy it. I think you will.
You're listening to the Jam Session Podcast.
I was told that I could listen to the radio at a reasonable volume.
With Cowboys insider...
What's your name?
Jean-Jacques Taylor.
That's my name.
Radio personality and craft beer expert, Matt McLaren.
He's a very strange young man.
He's an idiot. Comes from upbringing.
And now, the Jam Session Podcast.
It is indeed Jam Session. Subscribe, rate, and review, and hang out with us for a while. Right here on the Jam Session Podcast. The moment we've all been waiting for has arrived. Ladies and gentlemen, the radio, TV, and now podcast sensation, the sexy Jean-Jacques Taylor.
What up, dog?
I, of course, am the non-sexy one. They call me Matt McLaren. And this is Jam Session version 10, asking simply that you prepare to be dazzled.
If not entertained.
And we are hanging out once again. Our Thursday shows that we like to do, usually on location. And today we are out here at Odd Muse Brewing Company in Farmers Branch. And here shortly, we're going to sit down, chat with the owners, founders, the brewer of Odd Muse, Bobby Diaz and Charles Ruffino.
And you'll learn some stuff about craft beer that you never, ever, ever thought about.
Yeah, this is one of Dallas's newer breweries. It's less than a year old here in Farmers Branch. And man, I'm going to tell you, it's in my top 4. This is on my regular 4 places that I go.
Are you just saying that because we're here?
No, for real, it is. They know that. I mean, Bobby knows. Because we come up here and try to grab their new stuff a lot because they're just brewing really good beer.
Right.
But before we get to that, as many of you know, the Cowboys, of course, have another game this week. Who's excited? Can't wait.
Only the true fans, baby. Only the true fans.
Dude, so they are on the road against the Washington football team up there in Washington.
Now, this is also a game that we all checked off as a dub before the season
initially
started. They got to go 5-1 in division, sweep the Giants, sweep Washington, split with Philly, and then we'll see how it plays off. But what have I always told you, Matt? Sports is fluid. What's true today may not be true this afternoon, tomorrow, next week, next year.
No doubt, especially with this damn team. I mean, it's about as fluid as it gets. I'll tell you this. This is how much I don't believe in this Cowboys team. I needed a fantasy quarterback this week because, as many of you may or may not know, Dak Prescott was my fantasy quarterback, so obviously can't use him. And so I had to go out and get a quarterback. Well, last week I picked up Kirk Cousins. He did great for me. Guess what? Minnesota's on a bye. That leaves me with the following options, and I'm scrolling through the list and I go, Kyle Allen gets to play the Cowboys this week. I think maybe I'll pick him up and play that guy.
Hey, Kyle Allen ain't no good, but neither is the Cowboys defense.
That's the point.
And so we'll now see whether you made a wise choice, but this is football has always been about matchups, man. It's always been about matchups. And this, my friend, is a matchup that does not favor, to me, your Dallas Cowboys.
Especially if Zach Martin's not going to play and he's still in concussion protocol. He's still the DNP.
Yeah,
if Zach Martin's not going to play, then you're looking at this offensive line that, as we described on earlier versions, you're talking about basically a bunch of rookies and dudes they pulled in off the street.
Well, I was trying to figure out who is the offensive line because Brandon Knight hurt his knee and had surgery. Hurt his knee on the last play of the game.
Well, then Cam Irving may come back this week. How exciting.
So I guess if Cam Irving comes back, he'll play left tackle. Oh, my God. Connor Williams will play left guard.
Right.
Biadasz at center. Connor McGovern at right guard and Terrence Steele at right tackle. And I just going to tell y'all something, man.
Oh, my God. You just described the shittiest offensive line in NFL history.
Well, I mean, this – okay, I'm being serious now. This is the point where Bill Parcells says injuries are not an excuse. But you can't become so compromised that you can't function and play the game the way you normally do. And so I got to tell you, man, I don't care. I mean, really, I'm being very serious here. I don't care if they had Gale Sayers at running back, Michael Irvin, Jerry Rice, and let's say Don Hudson in his prime at wide receiver. Yeah, I went back to the old school Packers. And, Mike Ditka. Nah, I don't like him. Kellen Winslow at tight end.
Okay.
Okay. I don't care if you had those guys and Tom Brady in his prime at quarterback.
Yeah.
If you can't block them, it does not matter.
Well, that's part of the reason why Tom Brady's perfect season ended to the New York Giants, because they pressured him. They had a defensive line that could get pressure on him and not allow him to sit back there and pick them apart.
And so what are we talking about? What's the one thing Washington does well? They got Chase Young, second pick of the draft at defensive end, Montez Sweat, who was like the 9th or 10th player taken in the draft last year. And they got the two big boys from Alabama.
Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen, both first-round picks.
This, to me, like Michael Gallup and all that, it does not matter. Because we saw – see, here was the problem last week. Vance Joseph showed – sometimes you get tricky when you have a backup quarterback like Andy Dalton. Again, let's play coverage. Let's try to confuse him.
Yeah.
No, Vance Joseph was like, let's go after his butt, speed the game up, and see if he can handle it. And so I look at Washington, man. I think they're going to take some of that same approach in terms of really attacking him. And then, the other thing is their defensive line may have such an advantage that they don't need to do that.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And they can rush 4, drop 7.
Right.
And
I mean, we saw it last week. We saw teams get pressure with 3-man rushes. If you're Washington, you got those 4. Are you kidding me?
Dude, so I look at it, and it's just a bad matchup.
Dude, it's that Washington starts 4 guys that played for Alabama on defense.
But they still 1-5 or whatever they are.
I'm just saying, defensively they're good. They're not bad. The reason why they're bad is because Kyle Allen's their quarterback. They don't have a running back unless you believe in Antonio Gibson, I guess. And they have one wide receiver, your guy from Ohio State, and Terry McLaurin.
Now here's the deal, man.
That's it.
If the Cowboys were playing the way they should be playing, I'd look at this game and maybe I'd say, I don't know, it's a pick 'em, 7-3, 10-7, something like that.
Jesus.
Because you got 2 bad offenses.
7-3.
But here's the problem with your Dallas Cowboys. What have they done all season, Matt? Turn the ball over. They're giving teams 14 points a game. Like, if I'm Washington, I'd literally tell Kyle Allen, run the ball and punt. Run the ball and punt. Because if we just punt to the Cowboys enough, they'll turn it over. We'll get a short field. We can then go about the business of scoring points. And once we score, fellas, it's a wrap. They're going to give us 14 points. If we just be patient and wait, they are going to give us for free. Like a Groupon coupon.
They suck.
14 points, man. And then we can just dial it back, run the ball, and win the game. If we wait for them to screw up, this is what Ron Rivera is telling them. If we wait for them to screw up, we will win the game, fellas. That's all we got to do.
It feels like that, and it's unfortunate. But this is not a good team. It's 2 not good teams playing against each other. Washington, as you mentioned, is 1-5. Dallas is 2-4, and it's one of those things where at the end of the day, because of the injuries that this team has sustained, I mean, I feel like I want to pick Dallas to lose again.
What do you mean you want to pick? I mean, that's the only logical choice.
I mean, look,
it ain't personal.
I told that story about Kyle Allen for a reason, because I don't believe in this defense to stop anybody, and this offensive line, especially without Zach Martin, is going to get destroyed up front.
I think that's the biggest problem. It's their inability. See, when we're talking about offensive football, again, and I'm being serious here, it doesn't matter if you got Gallup and CeeDee Lamb and Zeke and Amari Cooper. It doesn't matter if your boy Andy Dalton, who's not a mobile guy, is stuck in the pocket, throwing from his heels, trying to get rid of it before he gets sacked. And that's what it looked like last week. And I got to tell you, I don't have any legitimate reason to think that that's not how it's going to look this year.
I expect it to. It's unfortunate. This is one of those weird games that I don't know. Like last week, I wasn't surprised Arizona scored a bunch. I'd be somehow, even though they're allowing 36-plus points a game, I'd be surprised if Washington scores over 30 because their offense isn't any good. But then I sit here and I go, well, their offense isn't any good. But much like when the Giants came in here and their offense is horseshit, you know what they were hoping for? They were hoping that they would get to play a team like Dallas so they could get their offense moving. And so now I look at this and I go, wow, I wonder if Kyle Allen and Antonio Gibson and those guys are looking at film going, okay, we can get some things going. We can finally get in a rhythm against Dallas because they're that bad defensively.
I don't think that's a bad take on the Cowboys. I mean, I looked at a lot of the numbers, and again, they're all kind of skewed. But how did Washington beat Philadelphia earlier this year?
Turnovers.
They let them turn it over. They converted them. Then they held on at the end. I look at it real easy, man. I think it's Dallas will be hard pressed to run the ball. They'll be hard pressed to protect Dalton. They'll make mistakes. I mean, if you've turned the ball over at least twice in 5 consecutive games, why would I not expect you to turn the ball over twice this game? If you've fallen behind by at least 14 points in 5 consecutive games, why would I not expect you to fall behind by at least 14 points in this game? To me, it's just being pragmatic. To me, it is what it is. To me, it ain't no big deal. I told y'all last week, when this stretch started, man, I said we may have to come to realization, we might, that this is a bad team.
It is a bad team.
Well, after last week, I don't think there was any doubt. It's a bad team. And so, I don't know, man. Bad team on the road. Hey, Doc, it is what it is, man. I see Washington winning 23-9.
Oh, my God.
What?
9?
How they gonna score?
9.
9, brother. Now, it might be a touchdown and a missed 2-point or something. Might be 3 field goals. And now, I want you to be honest. They are more, what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, I don't care if they prove me wrong. That'd be great. Prove me wrong. Go out there and score 30.
But what you're saying makes a lot of sense.
Formal apology.
Because Washington is averaging about 18 points a game on offense. So you're giving them just a tinge more than that.
Yeah.
Because they're playing Dallas. And then you look at the Dallas offense. Well, you can't look at it as the Dak Dallas offense.
Nah, bro.
The Andy Dalton Dallas offense averages 10 points a game.
Dude.
So 9's, maybe that's what it is.
Dude. They scored 10 points, season low, 344 yards, season low, 4 turnovers, season high, tied for the season high. And then they
tied for this. 4 turnovers ties the season high.
And then they averaged, and here's the tricky part,
I hate
man.
this team. It sucks.
They averaged 4.1 per play, which is abominable. And Andy Dalton passed for 266 yards. That's not okay, cool. But he needed 54 attempts, 4.9 yards an attempt, which is pathetic. None of that is a positive with a week to practice, Doc.
Yeah, see, I can't believe I'm doing this. This is very rare. I also have Washington winning because I don't think I want Dallas to lose, so that plays into this. I don't like this team, and I think that they need to continue to lose. And I think, like you talked about, I can't get past their front in the trenches. I can't get past what their defensive line is capable of doing against our offensive line.
That's what I'm saying, man.
And they're going to get pressure on Dalton. What's that? I had a dream about this. Oh, my God,
What?
I just remembered that.
Is this a deja vu?
Yes. I think. I don't see a portal opening. But, yes, I had a dream about this last night where Andy Dalton threw 3 interceptions against Washington. And I've got Washington winning this game by a score of 27-20.
Now, y'all got to know, this pains Matt to pick against the Cowboys on consecutive weeks. I'm not sure it's ever happened.
I don't think they're any good.
They're not, man.
I don't think Washington's any good, and I think Washington is looking at it exactly like I said the Giants were. They are excited that they get to play the Cowboys on Sunday. They are. Because they know that whatever they want to do offensively is going to work. Did you see that little thing on Twitter with Darius Butler where he was breaking down that Kyler Murray, little shovel pass or whatever? You didn't see that? So Darius Butler, who used to play cornerback, I think, in the NFL for a long time, he had this video on Twitter where he's breaking down that play where Kyler Murray did the shovel pass that scored the touchdown.
Right.
And Anthony Brown, when the angle he's looking at, he goes, what is Anthony Brown doing? He's like, right here, you know that this is not going to be, and he's just sitting there. And he goes, by the time he realizes what's happening, it's so like anybody could have scored. And seeing it in film, the way he pointed out, you're like, oh my God. Like these guys' eyes are not picking up what they're supposed to.
No, because they don't know what they're supposed to do. And
because they're so confused by the damn defense.
Hey, man, you can blame the defense. You can blame the players. Bottom line is, at one level, it doesn't matter. There's a huge disconnect they're not going to figure it out this year. And so they're going to continue to be bad for most of this year. Now, they'll have a hiccup where they play some good game once or twice in the last 9 or 10, but it'll be an aberration.
So there it is. We both have Washington winning, which is amazing to me. I just realized I never turned your headphones up. You were like, why can't I hear myself? Do you want it more? Do you like that? Is that too much? Is that better? No. That's the best. So we continue here with you on Jam Session. Jean-Jacques Taylor, Matt McLaren, rolling along with you. And again, we are live on location, recording this here this afternoon at Odd Muse Brewing Company in Farmers Branch. Encourage you guys to swing by when you get a chance and check out the very fine tap lineup that these boys have at Odd Muse. And again, Bobby and Charles, the owners and founders of Odd Muse, are going to sit down with us here shortly, and we'll have a beer conversation, just kind of shoot the shit, as it were.
About beer.
Exactly. But right now we do this pretty much on every podcast. We have an episode of The Block. Local guys talking about local things. That's what we like to do, although I have to tell you as we get started
You've
here,
already been to Heim?
No, I haven't been to Heim.
Okay.
But
I was going to jump.
A ton of people went last night, and people that I knew.
Really?
Yes, and I was like, why didn't you invite me to go?
Yeah, at
and
least
you know
bring
what?
me a plate back.
And I have to say this.
What?
I think it might have been some media invite stuff going on, and I
you
wondered,
serious?
WTF is my invite? Heim. Yeah, because
Heim. We gave you love on Twitter, bruh.
The people that I know that went are, but then again, I wonder, like, is it just because I have friends in the media, and so that's who just happened to go, or were they invited, or what? I don't know what happened.
I don't either.
But that's what it ended up being.
So if you didn't go to Heim, we still boys.
No, I didn't go. But I thought this was interesting because I never understood this to begin with. There are so many streaming services and there's so many different things that grab our attention. But apparently Quibi,
which was a dumb name,
was this thing that launched earlier this year.
You know, management was all over Quibi.
I don't get it. I don't understand
all
it.
over. Oh, this will be great.
I was like, no, it won't.
15 minutes. This will be great.
And it was all about, they were doing TV shows divided into like 10-minute episodes. And depending on where you were, your GPS gave you like certain endings. And shockingly,
that didn't work.
They have pulled the plug on Quibi. It is no longer, they are just shutting it down.
Woohoo. Sucks for them.
I was like, who in the world wants to watch a 10-minute episode of anything?
I don't get it, man. I mean,
shit, we do an hour and a half episode, and people are like, hey, can you guys please do more? Can you do 2 hours?
I was going to say maybe porn clips, but that's about it.
Yeah, because you're not trying to last that long.
Right. But
not
other
for
than
that. I mean, it's not, that's, you know what?
Other than that, it doesn't make any sense at all.
All right, I apologize. Mom, lady friend's mom, if you're listening, you're going to want to fast forward for a couple of minutes here. That's a fair disclaimer. But man, when you are self-pleasuring, I'm not trying to go for 30 minutes.
No.
And that's why tube sites became so popular. So in that sense, it works because you're looking for about 5 minutes, maybe 8 minutes.
Maybe.
But that's how come nobody like legit watches porn anymore. Like nobody, like Eager Beavers, I remember it was like the first porn I saw that came out, you know, and it was like this full-length hour-and-a-half film.
Who's got 90 minutes?
For that?
Yes.
Nobody. Because you don't care about the plot.
Nope.
You know, take off your top and maybe smile at the camera and
wink at me.
Whatever it is that you enjoy.
Yeah.
You know, show me your feet, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
Not that I'm into that. I'm just saying some people are.
Yeah, like that guy. I mean, we said show your feet, and he looked over here.
He was like, wait a second. Oh, my God, are they talking about foot fetishes? He's like, I could sit down with him and talk about some feet.
Not my thing.
No, but and so I thought Quibi was really weird because I don't understand in a world in which especially the best content that we enjoy the most is created on HBO and platforms or Netflix,
Amazon.
And guess what they are? Unless it's a comedy, they're all 50 minutes to an hour long.
And they're all like 8 to 10, 12 episodes.
We are so ingrained into that. When this came out, I said, you know what? YouTube already has that market cornered. If you want to go and watch short videos, you go to YouTube. You don't go to Quibi.
And you know, you make a good point because I thought I was crazy, man. But my dude and my granddaughter, all they watch. I mean, like they watch YouTube. They don't watch TV.
It's YouTube skews so young. It's actually really interesting. You know, we put up some stuff. You can find our YouTube channel, by the way, Jam Session Podcast. Just search this. And what's fascinating to me is that people want us because I started posting the audio version of this podcast.
Right.
So if you want to listen on YouTube, you can listen to it. Like, hey, can you put like live video with it? I was like, it's just us sitting here talking.
Doesn't matter, bruh.
Like we're clothed. I mean,
Well, I think it's more like
I don't have boobs. What do you want to see?
I think it's more like the whole webcam thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, and some radio shows started doing this a while back. We'll just stream the webcam, even though you're talking, even though people just like to see what you're talking. Even if you're just talking, they just like to see you.
Yeah, that's gotten really interesting to me as well, because those chat sites that have gotten really popular, and again, mom and lady friend tune away, but it's one of those things, like Chatterbait got really popular. And Chatterbait was this thing where you would go and you would sit there and watch these chicks on cam, and like a lot of the times
they're sitting around watching TV.
Yeah, they're just sitting there, and then eventually they get around and people will pay and tip them.
That never made sense to me.
That blows my mind.
See, I watched that because I couldn't believe people were doing that. So I was like, really? I don't believe that.
There's like Live Jasmine. I mean, there's a bunch of them. Now
I don't know any names.
Oh, well. I just see the ads pop up. I don't go to them.
Okay.
I don't. I've never spent money on any of that I have never in my lifetime spent money on pornography.
I get that.
That's true. Because all the tube sites are free. I mean, literally back in the day in high school, on a free preview weekend for Cinemax, you'd stay up late and watch like Red Shoe Diaries or whatever, that came on. You'd be like, oh, this is great.
We've come a long way since that.
We've come a long way since then. One day we need to have like this in-depth conversation.
No, we don't.
Yes, we do.
No, we don't.
We do, man.
No, we don't.
Why not?
We just don't.
You're afraid?
Yes. I'm afraid of how to be interpreted.
Dude, I have so many stories that I would love to tell.
I was going to say, now, you can have this conversation. I'd be like, wow, really? But I'm not going to participate.
Yeah, and I need you to participate.
Nah, bruh.
So we'll just move on then.
Yeah, let's move on.
And so we'll move on to another story, because I thought this was really cool. And I don't know why I thought this was cool. And I sent this to you guys, and all you, like Alan, who still helps out with the podcast and whatnot, is freaking out like, oh, great, when is this? And this is, NASA puts this out, that they have something about a major announcement about the moon.
Okay, how major can it be, bro?
Well, when I heard this, I don't know, did you ever see the movie Time Machine? It's based on a book. Guy Pearce is in it. Guy Pearce. And so Time Machine is actually probably the most realistic time travel movie of all time.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, so he because he eventually time travels to the future, and this movie was made a while back, maybe in the late 90s, early 2000s. So he time travels like the year 2050 or something.
Yeah.
And we have screwed up the planet so much that we screwed up the moon, and the moon starts breaking apart, which obviously screws up the tides and all that in our planet. So like, oh my God, what have we done? And so civilization has a problem, and then he ends up falling asleep in his time travel machine, and he falls over and hits a lever, and he goes way into the future, and Earth is basically reset. And it's almost like cavemen again.
Really?
Yeah, like what we knew. And he finds relics of where technology went wrong, kind of, like with holograms and stuff like that. It's actually really interesting. Anyway.
What's it called?
Time Machine. The Time Machine.
Oh, all right.
It's actually really interesting. And so when I heard about this, I was like, oh no. We've done something to screw up the moon.
And so the tides are about to go crazy.
But apparently they are holding a event to announce an exciting new discovery about the moon.
What is that, Matt?
Apparently it has something to do with a contribution to NASA's efforts to learn more about the moon in support of deep space exploration.
Okay, what the hell does that mean?
Well, we talked about this maybe a week ago or something like that, where, we're going back to the moon. They're going to put men and women on the moon here in the next couple of years with the idea of using it as a jumping point to Mars, to where they would build a colony on the moon so that they could then launch from the moon to go to Mars instead of launching from Earth to go to Mars.
I guess.
Because it cuts down on the time. I mean, even if it's just a day or two, it still cuts down on the time.
Okay.
And so, man, I found this fascinating. So there is an airplane. It's a modified Boeing 747 that flies above 99% of the atmosphere with a telescope, so that it's able to, it gets a clearer and more broad view of the universe. And because of that, like, this is a plane that discovered that there was oxygen on Mars' atmosphere.
Who's piloting this plane?
I don't know, maybe robotic.
Oh, okay.
Could be like a video game.
Yeah.
You get on Twitch, and you're like, hey, I'll pay $20 to pilot for 10 minutes or whatever.
Yeah, that sounds better.
Who knows? So yeah, nobody knows exactly what the announcement is. My thought is that it's something that they have seen about the moon, or a place that they've discovered where, okay, we found this and we believe that we can build a colony here. Because we've heard about that for forever, and that's why they want to explore the moon more, is to how do we build in space a bubble so that we can get to a point where we can launch from there. Hell yeah, look at Bobby. Thank you, my friend. It's Bobby.
Bobby's trying to get me.
One of the...
That's a different one. I want you to try.
Bobby is one of the owners and the brewer here at Odd Muse, where we're doing the podcast today, and he just brought me another beer.
Yes, this smells very hazy and juicy right here.
Oh, it's delicious. Dude, I'm telling you, these guys are on the map.
That's a good beer. See? That one's, he brought me one earlier, and I told him it was a little bland.
Yeah?
This is a different one, and it's juicy and hazy.
The triple, it was bland for you?
It's good, yeah.
Yeah, I can see why. But
back to beer.
Back to the moon.
Yeah, not beer.
Yeah, and so they don't say what it is, but this is going to be really interesting. Like, the plan is to have a man and woman on the moon by 2024, with the idea of using it to build a base to launch missions to Mars in the 2030s. That's 10 years, dude.
Shoot, I'll be eligible to go.
Will you still be alive?
2030?
Like 2030. You'll still be alive in 2035.
What is that? That's like 15 years from now.
God,
I'm going to be 68, but 60.
I would love to go to Mars. Like, you know this. Like if they could figure it out when I die, I want my body shot into space.
Maybe they'll have a cemetery in Mars you can buy.
Well, apparently it costs a lot of money. Like, I was like, really? To put a dead body on a rocket to shoot into space? What the hell? But I'll tell you this. When they broadcast from the moon that they are launching to go to Mars, that'll blow my mind. Like, that's one of those things, like, Maddox will be like 20 years old when that happens, or older. Oh, my God.
He'll be 15, he'll be like 25.
Oh, I've already gone to Hawaii on my raise, my child support ends.
Stop.
It'll be great.
Man.
But I'll tell you, it's one of those things, man, like, this idea of going to Mars seems so science fiction to me that when it actually happens and we're alive to see it,
right?
It's going to be badass. I love space. Space is so unexplored and so infinite.
That's probably why I ain't got no interest in it, man. I've seen too many movies.
Yeah, because you know in your mind, like, everybody pictures infinity, but at some point in your mind it ends. But it doesn't. It's infinite. And it's infinite in all dimensions. It's infinite in all directions.
Yes. So I have an infinity thing on my shirt.
And it never stops. Like, the movie Interstellar, I thought was fascinating about space. You know, and the idea that, and a lot of people think this because we don't know, that the edge of a black hole is where time travel is possible because time slows down and it swallows light, but it could actually allow you perhaps to time travel within that as a portal to another dimension in which we're in, of all things happening simultaneously, because time is a man-made invention. Like, we quantified what time is.
He's only had like 12 ounces. I mean, like, for real. It's only been like 2 glasses and a couple of other sips. So this is not like...
But it's true, right? Like, who invented time? We did. Where'd time come from? We quantified it. We said that the sun rising, and it's so many hours, and these are years, and this is what it means.
You know who created time? The man, because he wanted people to work a certain amount every day.
Probably so. But it's like, you know, like, man, we could get really deep here if you want to.
No? I'm good. Okay. I'm good on the shallow end.
Maybe another time. You know what we need to do?
Okay, I'm just asking. How deep are you trying to go?
It depends on how deep you want to get. You know, I'm talking like Mandingo, you're like, damn, that seems like that's deep. No. This is more than 14 inches. I'm talking, we're creating, this may be like a journey to the center of the earth deep.
Okay, let's save that for another day.
Right, so what you need to do one night when I don't have Maddox is come over on a Friday night or whatever, and let's have a couple of beers. And if you need to crash, you can. And let's do like a late night, let's drink podcast.
Okay, we can do that.
How awesome was it? She was fascinated with us, by the way.
Who?
That chick.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't notice? Yeah, you know. Come on.
Oh, I noticed. I mean, there she is right there.
Yeah, she's still looking at you?
She had a dude with her, so I was trying not to get into a fight. I mean, my sex appeal knows no bounds.
I got your back. Come on. Guys, you know, here's a problem with fights like this and in places like this. And I'll tell you this, and this is true, and all of you guys listening know this is true. The guys who talk don't want to fight. Because guys that know how to fight, they don't talk, they just hit you. And those guys suck.
That's pretty much me.
Yeah, those guys.
You know that whole, what you doing, man? What you got for me, man?
Yeah.
I used to tell the story all the time. I told the lovely Lorraine the other day, I had a fight damn near every day of the third grade at Daniel Webster Elementary. And I fought quite a bit up until about the 9th grade. All those fights I had, I like to say my record was 183, 3-3. And those 189 fights, Matt, I never got hit first. Never.
Yeah,
I'm a quick trigger, brother. Even if I got beat up later, you're going to feel something.
I've had both ends. I've had it where, it didn't turn out well for me, and I've had it to where the person was like, oh, my God, like, you are terrifying to me. I'm like, really? Whatever. But, yeah, I used to use I don't know, I feel like it's a phase.
Yes.
Where in my 20s, you'd go out to a bar and you drink or whatever, and depending on who I was with, and it just seems like everybody in their 20s has a douche to them to some degree. And there would be moments where, we would get into things like that, and I would just headbutt people.
Jeez.
Because you don't have to raise your arms. Like, you don't show anything. You're just standing there, and your head comes down on them. Because I do this. Like, if I get
especially if you're taller.
Yeah, if I get into that situation, I'm looking, like, you can't punch without your shoulder moving.
Right.
So I look at their shoulders, and if I see their shoulder, like, even just flinch, I'm like, oh, here we go. And so, that used to be...
That doesn't hurt?
Hurts both people. Hurts them more than me. Yeah, that's such a douchey thing. Like the bar fight's a douche thing, man.
Well, you gotta understand.
And I think I had douche moments.
I wasn't a big drinker, and I made a conscious decision, like literally, to stop fighting in about the 8th grade because seriously, the consequences were getting too high.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so I just decided, like, nah, I'm out. And
it's always been something with either my brother because we're super defensive, or a woman, and not even necessarily girls I was dating, but girls I would see in bars that had something done to them, or were cornered in some form or fashion. I mean, I'll tell this story real quick because why not? It's
podcast, and who owns it? We own it. So hey,
we were in Austin. This was probably 8-9 years ago for our fantasy draft,
right?
And we all went out on 6th Street afterwards. Like the whole league is there. And there's this, I'll never forget this. There's this girl, we were all just sitting there at some bar and we were ordering drinks. And this girl and some guy had an arm on each side of her, but they weren't together. And I was next to him and I looked over at her and she had this look in her eye. Help me. And so I pat the guy in the back. I was like, hey, man, can I buy you a beer? And he just looked at me and goes, what? I go, let me buy you a beer, dude. He goes, I'm talking to this girl, or whatever he said. And I go, I think it's pretty obvious that she's not interested, so how about I buy you a beer on me and just come over here? And this dude gets so pissed, he starts cussing at me. He's like, fuck you and all this stuff. I'm like, really, dude? I was like, I'm trying to buy you an alcoholic beverage. And he goes, what are you going to do about it? And so he turns and faces me, and this dude was going to kick my ass.
That's when he got the headbutt?
No, he was bigger than me, and I just remember thinking in my head, I was like, God, this is going to suck. Like, he's about to beat the shit out of me. But I didn't know what to do, so I was watching, and I didn't know this. Like, the guys that I was with, like, you've met Rashid.
Yeah.
And Rashid, who played football on the defensive line at Grambling back in the day, is about a 6'5", 300-pound black dude.
Yeah, back then, he about 350 right now.
Whatever. But Sheed is one of those, like, if you know Sheed, I don't know, it just cracks me up. But people see his size, and they're just like, and I didn't know that he had come up behind me. And I also didn't know this until later. My brother had broken a beer bottle and was standing to the side. He told me this later. He goes, if that dude had hit you, I was like, you're going to do what? Stab him in the neck? Like, what? Is this Goodfellas? It's like, Jesus. And so what happened was this dude was at the bar with a couple of his buddies, and there were 12 of us. And I think 4 of them.
Right.
And one of his buddies recognized pretty quick that he may get me, but the rest of them are going to get us. And so he came over. He's like, oh, whoa. He's like, no, we're good. Come on, dude. He's like, let's go. And the guy's like, no. And all this. And he's like, no. And I turned around. I was like, oh, Sheed's here. And Blake and these other guys I knew.
So, yeah. You 12.
No, and then I was like, we good. And this guy's pissed. And his friend's like, oh, we're good. He's like, let us buy you guys drinks. I'm like, really? And I'll tell you this, the girl came over and paid for our tab. She said, I picked up your tab. She goes, thank you so much. She goes, I can't believe you did that. Like,
really?
Yeah. She goes, that meant a lot to me. She's like, we're just here in a bachelorette party. I didn't want anything to do with that guy. I kept telling him, please leave me alone. And he wouldn't. And I was like, I was just raised. Like, I looked over at you and the look in your eye, I was like, I have to do something.
Right.
And so, those are the types of situations that I would get myself into sometimes. And I don't think that that's a douchey thing. I was trying to do the right thing. It just turned into a
thing.
We're about to throw down type thing. And I was like, damn, this is going to suck.
The problem is, when was that? 20 years ago?
No, this was probably
sheet, so
8 or 9 years ago.
Yeah, but dude, like the problem with it now is you get shot.
Yeah.
And you don't live, back when I'm not so old, but when I was growing up, we have a fight and you go home, maybe you got beat up, maybe you didn't. Now, if you beat up somebody, they go to their trunk, get their gun, and come back and kill you or try to kill you and kill 4 other people in it. I mean, the difference is I've had all those fights growing up.
Yeah.
I've told my dude, bruh, unless somebody physically puts their hands on you and you have no choice, just bounce, man. And
it's not worth it.
And they can call you every kind of bitch. And
it's like, at the end of the day, who cares?
And I said, just bounce, man, because people don't fight fair no more.
Yeah, nowadays it wouldn't be anything that somebody would do to me. It would be somebody that they did to, like I was just raised to be very defensive of women.
Yeah.
And if somebody like came at my mom or my lady friend, I mean, it's one of those like almost blackout moments where you'd be like, oh, I just sawed off a head. What?
I'm sorry, can I put it back on?
I didn't. Whoops. But I don't know. God, that turned into what a great conversation. This is what's great about the podcast.
Yeah, I don't know where it started.
I know, but you can. That's one of the things that I love about this, because you can have the tangent and you don't have to say, "Oh, we only got 2 minutes left." We can say, "You know what? Let's explore this. Let's have a good time."
Right.
And so that's what we're doing. So let's take a moment here to thank one of our sponsors. And again, we've talked about this a couple of times, but one of our sponsors is the meat. I know this sounds weird, but the wings at Kroger. And the wings at Kroger are available at pretty much every North Texas Kroger location. I know a couple of you have already gone and gotten them. And I will tell you this, man, I picked up some last weekend. I'm getting some this weekend.
Are you now?
Yeah, I told my brother, because we haven't seen him and his wife in a while. I said, why don't you guys come over? I'll pick up some wings at Kroger. We'll grill them out and we'll just hang out, drink some beers. And, my son's going to be here. We can play in the backyard. It'll be great. He said, that sounds awesome. I love the mango habanero flavor. They also have a buffalo blue cheese flavor. Now, the mango habanero to me is just, it's really, really, really good. It's really good. And so I would tell you, check out Kroger and get the wings from Kroger. They're available in the meat section. You just go up to the counter where you get your steaks cut and you say, hey, man, give me a pound or 2 of the wings, and you go from there. Mango habanero or buffalo blue cheese is the way to go at all North Texas Kroger locations. So we are hanging out here this afternoon at Odd Muse Brewing, which is in Farmers Branch off of Spring Valley. And what is that, Midway over there, I guess, like a tick north of 635. And we are sitting in here with the owners and the founders. It is Bobby and Charles hanging out with us. What's going on, guys?
Well, not much.
Not much. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for jumping on with us. So this has been something I know, I can't remember what I was reading, but I think it was maybe the Dallas Observer like a year ago did an article about you guys, and especially you, Bobby, talked about how this had been kind of something that you had been envisioning for several years to make this come true. So where does that begin, the plant that, okay, one day I'm going to get in and run a brewery?
I mean, it happened a while back, probably about 2012. I started brewing. My first batch of beer that I made was in an apartment in Austin in like 2006. From there, it just kind of sort of escalated. I didn't really take it seriously until 2012. And when I did, at that point, there was only maybe like 2 big breweries in Dallas. I think it was Lakewood and RAR at that point. And then, I really got into it. At that point, it was more of a pipe dream than anything else. And so I kind of made a list of everything I needed to do if I really wanted to do it. And it ended up taking about 7 years to get it going and off the ground. So, that's pretty much when it started. It started really when my first daughter was born. A lot of people hand out cigars when you have your first child. And so I made a beer and made a label and handed out beer bottles of beer that I made in the garage.
That's cool.
Yeah. So that's really where it really started to take hold. And then I just kind of started getting more and more obsessed with it. And then eventually it just took over, and it was with any obsession, right? It's either you either give in or you give it up.
Pretty much, that's what we're doing.
It's gonna eat you away.
All right, what makes one start to brew beer? Like, how does that become a hobby?
Oh man, well for starters, I really love beer, and I really like making things. So if I can make anything from scratch, like I would prefer to do that. So that's kind of how it was with beer. I always wanted to do it, and I just moved to Austin. I didn't really know anybody, so I just kind of took it up. And that was it.
So you guys have known each other like a long time, right?
Oh,
you were
yeah.
roommates
Yeah.
Yeah.
in North Texas?
Yes.
Is that where you met?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, we met probably, I want to say 2001.
Something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, we worked at a telemarketing company.
No, inbound
You
television.
gotta do something, right? Yeah. That's, so, Charles, like, when did you get into? I mean, obviously, if you've known each other since 2001, I mean, are you into the brew part of it, or are you on the other side of it?
I'm into the beer part of it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Brewing's definitely never been a passion of mine.
Yeah.
Bobby started brewing when we lived together. I've always hung out, drank whatever beer Bobby's brewing. If he told me to stick a hose somewhere, I might do it. I think the reason that I kind of got involved is when Bobby knew he was going to want to do the tap room side of things. It'd be hard to do. You know, it's almost two separate businesses.
Oh, yeah,
there's the
for
tap
sure.
room, and then
Yeah.
there's the brewing. And I've always been in some form or fashion of the hospitality industry, whether it's behind the bar or a vendor or whatever. So that's when he kind of approached me and said, "Hey, you want to do this?"
And you're like, sure, why not?
At first I was like, "Yeah, I don't know, man."
Like a brewery. What?
But he's good at numbers, and his business plan looked good. So
Well, that leads to this. Why the Odd Muse, and what the hell does that mean?
Yeah, so it's a good story. So Odd is my daughter's initials, both of my daughters. So Olivia and Daniela, and Diaz is our last name. So Olivia and Daniela, Diaz, and the Muse because they're my inspiration.
How about that?
I know it's a good story, right?
Yeah, I like that.
That is a good story.
Now, how long did it take you to come up with that?
Man,
I mean, as you're kicking names around.
I'll be honest. It took a few names before I landed on that one.
Is that what when you were homebrewing, did you call it Odd Muse?
No, when I was homebrewing, I called it Fountainhead. So I lived on Fountainhead, and it was very, very unoriginal. So, so I figured I couldn't keep that name because there wasn't anything to it. So.
Yeah, Odd Muse is a cool name, and the way that you do the local art and stuff like that, and that's painted up on the walls in the brewery and all that is, I think it's definitely original.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I mean we tried to. That was one of the things when I started. Right, it was a passion of mine, right, and I knew that I was chasing a dream, and I kind of wanted to sort of extend that opportunity to as many people as I could.
Yeah,
and we've got a few friends or a couple friends that are really talented artists, but they never actually went into it as a profession. And so, I mean, it was perfect. So I'm like, here's a canvas for you. We literally, like the murals that are in here, we literally told them they could do whatever they wanted. We had no idea what was going up on that wall before.
Really? Yeah, really?
No idea.
No, they were like, well, what do you? And we're awful at describing what we want. We're like, man, really, it's whatever you guys want to do.
And
And
they
so
came up with those.
They came up with some pretty weird shit.
And so, do they do your can art and stuff as well? Then?
Yeah. So there's two of them. One of them did this purple thing that's on the wall.
Whatever that is.
In the tap room. Yeah, if you're ever in the tap room, you'll see them. And then there's these orange and blue hybrid human creatures. So it's two different artists. The one that did the orange and blue hybrid human creatures, he's the one that's done pretty much all of our labels except for one.
Yeah.
And then we're about to release a beer next week where they collaborated on the artwork, and it's both of their artwork. So, but up until then, it was primarily one of them doing all the labels.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because what you just said, it really clicked with me, I guess, because I think that's part of the reason why I love craft beer is because you talked about how you were chasing this dream.
Yeah.
And a lot of the local breweries, not the ones that have sold out, but even those ones at some point started in their garage with the dream.
Right.
And my dream was always to do radio and chasing that my whole life. And I just really have always been inspired by that. The chasing the dream thing, and I think that's why local stuff is so important to me.
That's awesome.
Like when you said that, I was like, that's why I love coming to breweries, because these are guys that are trying to do, in a different business, but in a sense, what I'm trying to do, which is make a living doing something that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
Right.
You put it all on the line. you believe in it, but at the end of the day, it's like, okay, this either works because this is what I'm doing, man.
Yeah.
Like, this is all there is.
And I mean, what do they say? If you do what you love for the rest of your life, you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
So why does the brewery work?
Why does it work?
Yeah, because every brewery don't work.
People like to drink, man.
But our brewery in particular,
because every brewery don't survive.
No, that's a really good question, and I think ultimately, I honestly don't know. I think it all comes down to the passion behind it. I think that comes out when somebody comes and visits our tap room. I mean, it's obvious. One of us is here behind the bar. This is our home, right? And I think it shows. It shows in the beer. It shows in our sort of social media. It shows in our labels even. Just that it's like we're sinking everything we got into this, and I think it shows, and people realize that, and they like it. So.
Yeah, I think obviously I've been here a few times, and this is one of the places we like to come because the beer is good. I mean, I think that matters.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, the beer is
Absolutely.
really good.
Thanks.
It is, and I think the tap room has that type of vibe where it is very welcoming, like you were talking about. And it's funny because he asked me, he's like, well, what makes? I was like, I don't know how to describe it, but there are tap rooms. There are some in Dallas-Fort Worth that you walk into and you're like, I mean, it's kind of cold. It's not as warm, and you guys have done, and part of it's the local art, but there's kind of like a family feel, at least when I've been in here, because there are families in here from time to time. You'll see people playing games on the table, and it's cozy and really inviting to me every time I've been in here, just as somebody who loves craft beer.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, and I mean that's really was our goal with this place. Was to make it inviting. And I mean, pre-COVID, these tables were sort of pushed together kind of beer garden style.
Right, yeah.
And so it was a little more like, you had to sit close to one another. But yeah, now everything's, 6 feet apart. So.
Well, when you're starting a business, when did you guys know, okay, yeah, it's going to work?
We don't know.
Yeah, knock on wood. It hasn't even been a year yet.
Jeez, dude. Holy shit. Which is fair, because it's such a competitive market.
Yeah.
But one thing I was reading that you had said as well was like the hyper-localized type of brewery, which you guys, you're in Dallas, but Farmers Branch is different than Dallas.
Yeah,
it is.
It is.
And I think
okay, how's it different?
Because I'm telling you, and for whatever reason, it's one of those things, I think, in the craft beer world where like local businesses and local people will support this, that it's just different. Like with some of the bigger breweries or some that are in Dallas, they don't have that localized support. They can't go sponsor whatever soccer team for kids and things like that, where it's not as a localized feel to it.
Yeah, I mean,
write that down. Sponsor.
There you go.
Sponsor
kids
Odd Muse soccer. That is a good idea.
There you go. Hey, you're welcome.
But yeah, I mean, that's definitely what we were going for, and we're in a kind of a really weird sort of corner of the Metroplex. So we're basically trying to be, somebody's backyard brewery, right? And around here, it's south of 635. They can go down to Dallas, but we're closer than that.
Yeah.
Right. It's Farmers Branch over here to the west. Right. It's far north Dallas to the east, and so we're in this weird little pocket where we're technically Farmers Branch. You tell people we're in Farmers Branch, they think we're at 635 and 35.
Yeah.
But in reality, we're like a stone's throw from the Galleria. So it's a really weird sort of pocket that we're in, and we find we look around. There's no houses, but people that come in here over and over and over, they're like, I
live right
down the street. I live
where?
right? Exactly. I'm like, all right, where?
Was that so? Did you guys? Is this where you wanted it to be? Was we want Farmers Branch?
Not necessarily. So we wanted this sort of general vicinity. We looked everywhere, but I kind of wanted sort of northern Dallas. And maybe even into the suburbs, like somewhere up north, right?
Yeah.
But really what it boiled down to was we ended up kind of in the perfect spot. But mostly it was we had to check off all the boxes, right? And so all the boxes are basically, okay, does the city allow it? Okay, good. The city allows a brewery. Okay, now is this specific spot, is it zoned properly? Okay, it's zoned properly. Great. Does it have all the electricity and water supply and gas, all that good stuff that we need, right? Okay, check, check, check. Lastly, is the landlord okay with it, right? Like, I mean,
yeah, we're putting a brewery in your space. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, all of these things, and then and it does. How much work is it going to require, right? How much money are we going to have to put into it? That kind of thing. And so there was just a huge list of stuff that had to align perfectly, and it just kind of did with this place.
I definitely thought the spots would be abundant. Like, oh, we'll be looking at 5, 6 a week. We'll have, and then when it's all a ceiling height and like all the stuff you just mentioned, and then your budget, like, well, there's not as many.
That's crazy.
They're not as many as we thought there would be.
So again, we're talking with Bobby and Charles from Odd Muse Brewing over in Farmers Branch, a great place making great beer here locally. And one of the things, I remember you telling me about this a while back, that the city helped you guys out, put in this like really kick-ass outside patio space.
Thank you.
Yeah, it turned out great. Yeah, they kind of approached us. We knew we needed something outdoor, and I don't know if you came when we had it, but we had this little like pig pen in the back with 4 picnic tables. If anybody wanted to sit outside, they could go sit back there, and it was bad. But we knew we needed to do something out front, so we were trying to do something ourselves, and it was going to be pretty low budget because It just would have been. So,
why not? I mean, save money. Yeah.
So they approached us. I guess they had some grant money, and they're trying to help out local businesses. They've put up several parklets around the city already for other sort of restaurants. I think they were trying to help their businesses have an edge when they open back up, and they definitely did that with us. It turned out way better than we could have ever hoped.
Yeah.
It's awesome, and people love it. So yeah, it's been night and day. Our turnout's been night and day since we opened it up.
That's crazy. But I mean, this is a time of year like having that everybody else sit
and
outside.
It couldn't have been more perfect either. Like just we open it and it's like 70-degree weather.
That's awesome. And it's cool that the city did that. That's really cool.
Oh no, it's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, shout out to the mayor, the city manager. They all of them they've been nothing but super helpful. So like when they came out one day, the city manager was here one day. He showed up kind of just to check on the progress and touch base with us on food trucks. And we mentioned to him, we're like, we could probably use like a speed limit sign out there or something because there's not one.
Yeah.
And literally the next day they were out here digging a hole and putting up a speed limit sign.
How cool is that? Who says politicians ain't worth a flip?
You want to move to Farmers Branch? Jeez, man. I mean, that's like a city that seems like they really care.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been great.
I'm always curious about this because I'm drinking this Black is Beautiful coffee stout, and it's fantastic. And y'all know me. I'm not just saying that. It really is good. And Matt can tell you because I've almost finished it.
You've had more of your beer than I've had of mine.
but that always leads me to this question because I'm curious. What's the beer you've brewed that turned out the worst that you thought was going to be good when you started?
Ah, man. Okay, so that's kind of a no-brainer. Well, for one, we just literally had to dump our first batch.
Really?
Like
First
2
batch.
weeks ago.
Was it flawed or?
So my fermentation stalled out. I tried everything to get it back going, and we couldn't.
That sucks.
So by the time it came to it, it was like, okay, well, we need the tank. We've tried everything we can with this beer, and so we ended up dumping it. And aside from that, we never actually, the beer never came to fruition, so I couldn't tell you whether it was going to turn out bad or good. But it just never made it. But as far as which beer was the worst, I don't know if any of them are bad. I like them all. Now there are some I like more than others. We've got one. Silk the Hopper is one of the ones that turned out. For me, it was a little more bitter than I would have wanted. At the end of the day, it ended up turning into a decent beer, but at the beginning, it was kind of undrinkable. We had to let it sit for a while before we could tap it. But at the end of the day, it turned into a good beer. So other than that, we haven't had one that knocked on wood.
Charles, what about you? Did he ever brew anything? And you're like, dude, maybe we should do this.
Oh, there's none that are. I tend to go for, I like IPAs, and I tend to go for, I also like, especially since we're here a lot, we tend to drink some of the lower ABV beers,
right, yeah,
like
so you're
the
not hammering
Pilsners.
every day. Yeah.
Some of the darker beers aren't always, especially in the summertime.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, absolutely. He'll bring a beer and I'm like, oh, it tastes great. It's not my style.
Yeah,
Not necessarily but like he said, there's nothing that's been bad where you're like,
where it's
we can't.
Where it's
we
legit.
can't. Where it's gross or anything like that. Or
I will if I don't like it, it won't make it to the tap wall. Like there's some beers that I'm like, okay, it's not my favorite, but it's not a bad beer. So put it on, right? But I could not in good conscience sell a beer that I thought was awful.
Bobby's definitely his biggest critic.
Which is good.
On a day-to-day basis. One day he'll be like, I don't know about that new beer. I don't know. It's not what.
Like, oh, yeah,
the next day he's like, yeah, it's pretty good. It's drinking pretty good. So.
All right, now that always leads to this. What's the best one you've done?
So, man.
He's like, let me think about the 25 that are the best.
No, honestly, I think my all-time favorite probably has to be the Woodpecker Lip. So it's our Scotch Ale.
That was really good, man.
Thanks.
Like legit really good for a Scotch Ale.
Oh, thank you.
I thought that was one of the better ones I've ever had.
Okay, what makes a good Scotch Ale?
Let him tell you. He's a brewer.
Yeah, so this one in particular, and not a lot of people use sort of a peated malt in their Scotch ales, but I do.
How come?
A little bit. I don't know, to be honest with you. I think because it's too on the nose. I don't know. I don't know why people don't, but a lot of them don't have that. But I feel like it's necessary to have that sort of characteristic. And so when I put it in, I use peat smoked malt. And so you get on the back end, like, so for me, the beer is good because all the way through, it starts off kind of sweet and malty, and then you get a little bit of caramel, and then you get a little bit of roastiness, and then on the end you get a little bit of smokiness. So it's almost like an up and down of flavors, and so it's pretty deep and complex, and that's kind of why I like it.
Well, let's talk about something I like.
You don't like Scotch Ale? Come on.
Well, no, I didn't mean like that.
Have you tried a Scotch Ale?
Like I just told you, this coffee stout was great.
Yeah.
But I also said, because y'all know I like coffee stouts, so I've had a bunch of them. Mm-hmm. But I told you, and y'all know I wasn't joking. I said this is the most robust coffee flavor.
Okay.
I mean, it almost damn near overtakes the beer flavor. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see that.
How did you get it like that?
So a lot of people, there's different ways to add coffee. You can add coffee. I mean, you talk to any number of brewers, and they'll tell you a different way to do it. So you can add it, when it's hot. You can add it after you've brewed it. You can add it, So what we do is I add the beans while the beer is cold, and so it's almost like a cold brew, but with the beer as sort of the water that you would make a cold brew with. And so that's how I sort of achieve a robust coffee flavor, but without the acidity and bitterness of the coffee.
Now I'm curious, how much experimentation did it take for you to get to that?
It took me so the first time I made a coffee beer, I split it up into two, and I did it the way I just described, and then I also added brewed coffee to it. And having tried it both ways, I was like, oh, this is definitely a better way to do it. And then, after speaking with some people that are, experts in coffee, I was like, okay, well, what's the best way to make a cold brew? And so they told me the best way to make a cold brew. I was like, all right, well, I will just apply that to my process, and we'll see what turns out.
Now, are we talking weeks, months, or years?
Oh man! So that was probably done in my garage. So I mean, that was every beer. That's the problem, is every beer takes at least 2 weeks, if not longer. So it'll be 2 weeks before you know. I mean, you can kind of tell beforehand, but for the most part, it's about 2 weeks. But yeah, I mean, it probably took a couple batches. So I'd say maybe 4 batches. It's like 2 weeks per batch, so a couple months probably.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic.
Thank you.
I'm glad you like it.
As I finished it off.
Whoa! You see, this is what's so strange, and I mean, we've said this a few times to people that regularly listen, but when I first started doing the show with Jacques a couple of years ago, he legit, I think he'd maybe had like 10 sips of beer in his life. Yeah, and so like legit, it was the Atlanta Super Bowl,
right.
And I told him and our producer that was traveling with us, I said, look, I'm going to go to breweries. That's what I like to do. You guys are welcome to come. If not, cool. If you want to hang with me, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so we go to all these different breweries, and he would order a flight.
Well, they told me to order a flight. They said, if you're at the brewery, you got to order a flight.
In my mind, I'm thinking, I mean, anybody can drink a flight, right?
Yeah,
and I didn't realize that meant for him a sip of each beer and leaving the rest of it. So I'm drinking, like I couldn't leave his. I was
That's
like, no,
funny.
the brewery would think it's not good. I was like, I'm drinking 2 flights everywhere we go. And so to go from a guy who's literally taking a sip of all these beers to a dude who just downed a coffee stout.
But I told you that was my thing.
Yeah, and then he discovered somehow along the way, fairly recently, that he loves coffee stouts. And now he's got coffee stouts in his fridge at home.
It's awesome.
Now,
He comes over to my house
I'm
the other day, he's like, you got a
one-dimensional.
stout for me? I was like, oh my God, really?
I'm one-dimensional.
I don't know.
like
9 a.m., man.
You know, I don't like a whole lot of other stuff, but I like those. I like some hazy
It's crazy.
stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm a coffee stout guy, man.
awesome.
And
Well,
so
they're good.
Now I just like to compare them all and see.
See, I tell people that all the time, and I told you this. I said, there is a beer for everybody.
Didn't I tell you he
that's
said
exactly
that?
what you said.
Yeah, you just have to find it because
Yeah.
I think people that aren't into craft beer or in beer at all, they go, well, I don't like, it's so bitter. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, well, that's because you think craft beer is IPAs.
Well, that's just it. We get people that come in here all the time. They're like, I don't like IPAs. Okay, I was like, okay, well, let's back up
Well,
for a
good.
second.
So you have like 50 other styles.
I know, right? Well, I'm like, let's back up for a second. When you say you don't like IPAs, is it that you don't like the bitterness of the IPA? Or is it that you don't? Because now, I mean, you've got hazy, juicy IPAs,
Yep.
which taste nothing like West Coast IPAs.
At all, yeah.
But they're called IPAs. So somebody who doesn't normally drink beer and they just see IPA, they're like, I'm not going to like that. And they drink it, they're like, oh my God, that's really good.
Yeah.
Right.
That doesn't taste like an IPA. I'm like, well,
Because
it kinda
I had
isn't.
what was it? A double hop dry IPA.
Yeah.
But that was pretty good.
Yeah?
Normally
Yeah.
I don't like those. It was a couple weeks ago. Something we had that I would normally not like,
Yeah?
but I had to drink it because we were doing our show.
Yes, it's really...
and I was like, you know what? I'm shocked. This is not as bad
Juicy and soft.
as I
and-
thought it was
Yeah.
going to be.
Yes, it's really interesting, like the evolution of craft beer for people that are like, I tell people that all the time, and then when I meet somebody who's like, I don't like it, it's like
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, it's my mission. I guarantee you, I can find you a beer that you like. And a lot of times, like with people, I'll say, do you drink coffee? And a lot of people drink coffee. I'm like, okay, well then you'll literally like a beer you just don't know that you will.
Yeah.
And you give them something like that, that's actually used coffee beans in the
Dude,
mash.
I'm telling you, that thing was good.
Yeah, and it's a matter of describing it too, because I mean we have people that come in, they're like, I like IPAs. I'm like, okay, well, time out. Do you like bitter IPAs
Right.
or
Yeah,
do
yeah,
you
yeah.
like hazy, juicy IPAs? And they're like, well, no, I like the bitter ones. I'm like, okay, well, let's go to this side of the board.
Yeah, which
We'll
is
get you
interesting
something from over
because,
here.
like, do you guys, is it a business choice almost to brew as many hazies as you do, or do you love brewing hazies or like just drinking?
So it's definitely my favorite style to brew because, I mean, small tweaks make big differences in these beers.
Yeah, that's true.
Give us
and
an
I
example.
If I use, for example, the beer that Matt and I are drinking, which is a
what?
single hopped hazy IPA. So it's hopped with Galaxy. This is a beer we're releasing late next week. We took a beer and I split it into 2 different fermenters. So half went in this side and half went in the other side. One of them got Galaxy as the hop, and the other one got a hop called Nelson Sauvin. And so we split
I love
them.
Nelson, dude. I just do.
And I would give you some, except that one's not carbonated yet because I had to give it an extra dry hop.
No big deal.
But so I split them, and they taste completely different. Completely different. And then there's another one that we're releasing next week that's got 5 different hops in it, and it also tastes completely different. And then there's another one that we're also releasing next week, so that's 4 we're releasing next week.
Damn, dude.
But it is a triple IPA with 3 different hops, and it also tastes completely different. So just playing around with like just the temperatures, the dry hop additions.
All of that makes it taste different.
All of it.
Temperature,
Yeah.
extra hops, all of that.
Whereas if I brew a blonde ale, it's like, okay, I know what I need
Yeah.
to do to make a blonde
That makes
ale,
sense.
and it is what it is. It's just a boring brew day. But
That's why I don't like them.
I mean, they're good beers for what they are. But
I don't like beer that tastes like beer.
okay,
You don't like lagers.
yeah.
He likes ales with the esters and all,
Okay.
the fruitier
Yeah.
type
Nice.
flavor and all that.
Yeah, this is the
Has he
difference
tried
between
any
us.
of
I
the
said I don't like
fruited
beer that tastes like beer,
Like the
and he said
No,
I don't like
that's a good
lagers.
point. I mean, you might like that.
What?
A fruity Berliner.
I have no
We
idea.
don't have any of those.
we had a side conversation while you guys were having a side conversation within the one conversation. No, but it's that's why like hazies to me, I think when Tup started putting them out a couple years ago with that DDH series that they did, and they were putting the hops on the can, and then you could see it's like, oh my god, like. So this beer, like Series 3 or whatever, I think was the one that really set it off, and then like Series 4 comes out, holy crap, this is. Whatever it was at the time, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And I think people like me, especially that are really into IPAs, you love trying the different hops and the different combinations and how you build them out and all that, with the variety of hops that are out there. Like I got so into hops, like I started researching like the different flavors and where they're grown. And I will tell you this, have you ever brewed anything with Sriracha?
No, not yet. Sriracha Ace? No, not yet.
See, I had, it's been a while, but somebody brewed one, I don't think around here, that had the Sriracha Ace, and it's got that dill flavor to it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
and
Brooklyn.
it's real. If you ever come across those, I've had a couple with them.
Yeah.
But I never see anybody locally, and I don't know how hard that is. I mean, it's out of Japan, I think, if I recall.
We don't have any of those hops, but I wouldn't be opposed to it. Yeah, I mean, and to answer your question, right, like back to your question about whether it was a choice for the hazies, like it's really like what people
because they're so popular. Yeah.
People want those beers, and it's crazy, and you can tell what people want because we'll put out a West Coast IPA, and it doesn't move nearly as fast as the hazy IPAs.
Right, it's crazy, man.
And so it can be anything.
Yeah, and y'all's West Coast is really good, man.
Thank you.
And it's one of those things because I that's what got me into IPAs originally was the West Coast style. Like dude.
What's the difference in a West Coast and a whatever else?
Yeah, so the West Coast IPAs are going to be more bitter. Some can be piney.
More, yeah.
Like really, really bitter. Like
dank.
Very dank.
Like super resin on the back. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Whereas your sort of what started off as a New England style IPA, so an East Coast
those are
IPA.
ones I like.
Yeah, those are going to be more like soft, pillowy, juicy, fruity, less bitter. But yeah, I mean, people think that
it's like Biggie and Tupac.
There you go. Yeah.
They are very different, but I used to. I mean, that's what got me into IPAs was because I loved bitter, and I would try, and they say whatever it is, the palate can't go above a certain amount of IBUs, and then you get breweries that are throwing out like 200, 250 IBU beers, and you're like, oh, I want to, and you can tell that it's chewier in a sense, but it's. I used to love those, and now locally, whenever you see somebody put them out, you're like, oh my God, somebody brewed a West Coast.
Yeah,
this is great because they're just. I mean, hazies are everywhere now, and because everybody wants them.
Hey, that's what, and especially around here. For whatever reason, the DFW market is.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, because you go down to Austin, and people really like their lagers down there. So you get lagers everywhere in Austin. Up here, I mean, everybody has. There's a lager here and there, but. Down there, they're everywhere. Up here, it's like hazies everywhere.
That is interesting. I had a conversation with somebody the other day at a brewery that I randomly was just talking to. We were talking about Austin and how they don't really have hazies in Austin like they do up here. Like there's not a real good, like other than Pint House, I guess, like Electric Jellyfish or something like that. But outside of Pint House, and I think Circle had some at one point, but outside of that, like you don't really hear about Austin breweries pumping out stuff like you guys or Turning Point or Celestial or whatever up here in Dallas.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's the outdoor nature of Austin. Everybody's outside. So
maybe
you gotta
drink lagers. They want something easy. They got to ride their bike home.
Yeah. They're like, I just went on the boat.
Tube.
Yeah, I was kayaking in Town Lake, and now I've got to ride my bike home and eat my granola.
Make room for breakfast tacos.
No, I don't know, but yeah, I mean, they make really good lagers down there. I think ABGB took tons of awards over the past few years.
They kill it.
I mean, all lagers, and it's good. They're all good. I mean, lager's not an easy beer to brew. So
how come?
Because they're really light. So any sort of imperfection in your beer will shine through. Mm-hmm. So you have to do everything perfectly and execute it right. Otherwise,
Yeah, like any flaw, like a beer flaw, like the easiest way to pick it up is in a lager. Like the domestic big brands, like if you actually wanted to like sample flaws and learn what they taste like, the easiest way to do it is just shoot it in one of those.
Yep.
And then you can, because you pick it up immediately. You can't hide it.
Really?
Yeah, you can't hide it.
Whereas like in a big coffee stout, there's a bunch of coffee and malt to hide behind.
I got you.
You're like, this one had diacetyl in it, but we were like, whatever, we'll just put more coffee in.
More coffee. It's good.
More coffee. I see.
So, you like brewing the hazies, and you already said you like the IPAs. So how do you decide to, that you're going to do some of the other styles. Like the Scotch Ale, for instance, is interesting because not a lot of people are brewing it. It's not like a super popular flavor.
Yeah, so I tend to brew what I like to drink, and Scotch Ale was one that I brewed while I was brewing at home, and so that one was a recipe that I really liked, and so I knew that was one that I wanted to do. I also like stouts, and so there's a Russian Imperial Stout that we do that we haven't done in a while that'll come back soon. So really we try to keep, at least 3 hazies on the board, if not 4 or more even. I think we're about to have 6 next week.
Yeah.
How many beers do you have on the board?
Right now,
In
with
general,
everything
is
that's
there
in
a
cans,
sweet
so we
spot
have-
number?
I think we have 13 taps. And so there's some beers that we have in cans that we don't have in draft. So we'll just do cans of those. So I think right now, we have like 13 different options maybe.
All right. Now go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask, was that forced more so by the pandemic?
Kind of.
But
We always knew that we wanted to go into cans. The pandemic sort of forced our hand and to do it a lot quicker and a lot, like we were going to sort of ease into it and do like,
That's what I figured.
some like classic, one of our like 1 or 2 beers, and the pandemic hit and everything.
Yeah, and you had to have to-go stuff.
You had to.
Yeah.
Because, we were selling, our crowlers were selling pretty good at the beginning, but, that wasn't sustainable. People don't want crowlers. They want something they can take pictures with, right? And so,
Yep.
it's
true.
And, it is. Right? And there's a smaller serving size, too, 16 ounces versus, at that point, we were doing 32-ounce crowlers. But, so the cans, it kind of forced our hand. The pandemic forced our hand a little bit. But, it was kind of a blessing in disguise, to be honest with you, because I don't know that we would have jumped into it as quickly had it not been for...
Yeah, I figured because I remember when it first happened, back when we had gainful employment and I was making money, I was going to all the local breweries trying to buy, 4-packs. And
Trying to help folks out.
You guys were on our circuit, so to speak,
Nice.
where we were trying to come by at least every couple of weeks to buy... to go.
Yeah.
We used to talk about that on the show. I was like, man, like you guys locally that are listening, just going and buying a 4-pack and trying different breweries is such a help right now in a time where the tap rooms can't be open, bars are shut down.
Yeah.
And it's a really difficult time, but I feel like for the most part, people are able to skate by because of the to-go option.
Yeah, that to us was a sort of a saving grace, right? Like, just the sheer, just the outpour of support from all of our... at that point, we had been open for 3 months when the pandemic hit. So we hadn't had a chance to sort of build our base, our customer base, or our following. And so we noticed that, we were definitely seeing a lot of people that we would see on a regular basis in the tap room, but then we started seeing people that we'd never seen before. And people, the can started to spread on social media.
Yeah.
A lot, I think, because of the artwork. The beer is really good, but I think the artwork helped a lot too.
For sure.
So, we had people, by the time we opened back up in June for the first time for 3 weeks before we got shut down again, by the time we opened then, we had a whole brand new following that we didn't have when we were open for 3 months. And then now that when we opened in September, it was a whole new following of people that had never even sat in our tap room before, but had been buying beer to go for months.
What's in a beer name?
Man.
Yeah, that's
my favorite thing.
it's probably my least favorite thing to do is come up
Really?
with beer names.
That's right.
Because Matt will tell you, I'm picking beer by the can. I like this can. I don't like that can.
Yeah, which is fascinating to me, but apparently that's a thing. So
Oh man, yeah, the beer name. Yeah, no, it's a lot harder than it sounds. You think, oh yeah, I got tons of ideas for beer names. Well, when you hit beer, what are we, 35 or 36?
You're not as creative as you think you are.
you're like, is Backyard Rodeo going to work? Can we put that
How
on
do
a
y'all
beer?
come up with them?
Different ways. So a lot of times the artwork comes first, and then the name comes. A lot of
does
times
the
the
artwork
name
come
comes, and
first?
then the
Because our buddy Matt that draws them is a weirdo, and he's got a surplus of just
All these random
weird
ass-
shit that he's like, this could be a label. This could be a label. This could be a label.
Sounds like my boy.
He's like, I was doing acid last night. Look what I drew. Exactly.
All right, that's coming on the next hazy IPA coming out.
That's fucking great. I love that.
Yeah. So a lot of times we'll go to him. We're like, all right, here's an idea. Here's what we're brewing, right? Okay. Well, what's a good label for that? Typically, it's hazy IPAs, and it's like, all right, well, at this point, there's nothing original when it comes to, a label for a hazy IPA. It's not like, it's a marshmallow or something like that. It is what it is, unless we put fruit in it. If we put fruit in it, then we come up with, what we have in the past anyway, come up like a way to incorporate the fruit in the label itself.
Right.
And even then, it's like, okay, well, there's the artwork, but
It was twice, and
We
they
don't
both
have a
happened to
name.
have mangoes in them, so they were mango head people.
yeah.
Right? That makes sense. Yeah, it is. I mean, beer names they're weird, and then it's like you'll have one that everybody wants, like Silk the Hopper. I mean, that's a great
Now, is
name.
that like, who is that? Silk the Shocker?
Yeah, exactly.
It's named after Silk the
Yeah,
Shocker.
but I mean,
Okay.
it works, and
So
Mystic
that-
Workhorse, that's a great name. It sounds like a name of like a kick-ass band.
Well, this Silk the Hopper actually came about because when we brewed that beer and we tasted it for the first time, we're like, oh man, this is like really silky smooth, but it's really bitter. And so silky hoppy, and then that's kind of where it came from.
Yeah, man.
It
I
just
mean,
kinda-
there's some great beer names that you guys have come up with, but it is weird. You always love the beer names.
Dude, they just, I just find it fascinating. All right, what's your favorite beer name that you guys have come up with?
It might be Silk the Hopper. That's pretty
That's
good.
a damn good one. That's hard to beat.
Charles?
I like Silk the Hopper. I'm trying, man. We have so many that I'm like going back through some of them.
I like Woodpecker Lips. So Woodpecker Lips. is
That has a
probably
good
one of my
story. I like
favorites.
Woodpecker Lips?
Oh, what's the story?
So that beer, I brewed that beer when my father-in-law passed away in like June of, now it's probably about 5 years ago. But I brewed that beer after he passed away in his memory. And one of his sayings was he was a retired colonel in the Army, and he had all these like military sayings like you gotta, I don't know, like. Anyways, one of them was you got to be tough as woodpecker lips, and so that's where So I mean, because I guess woodpecker
so
lips are pretty
weird.
tough if they
Gotta be.
They gotta be, right? So that's a saying that we say to our kids and we kind of incorporate it into a beer. So.
Woodpecker Lips. I've never heard that before. Interesting.
I once kissed a chick with woodpecker lips.
Yeah, she's doing something else. I bet that.
She didn't get the job.
So do you guys have? We always like to ask everybody this. So for like each of you, do you have like the white whale of beer that you're chasing?
Like the
heady topper?
trying to make or trying to drink?
Either trying to drink or trying to make. Either one.
Man, so I have nothing but the utmost respect for Monkish out of Torrance in LA.
Yeah.
I used to go out there for work all the time. I mean, like 15 times a year I'd be up there. And every time I'd go, I'd make my way to that tap room. And their hazies are phenomenal. Like really, really, really good. And so I've been sort of chasing that sort of, I don't even know what they taste like anymore because it's been so long since I've had one. But in my head, I know what it tastes like, and I've been trying to sort of achieve a similar, not necessarily a carbon copy of that, but like just I want that sort of sensation from my beer, and I feel like we're getting close.
I think so. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's other than that, I mean it's not. I mean I'm not sort of seeking out any beer that I want specifically to drink, but to make, I'd say that's definitely like at the top for me. Like if that's, to me that's hands down some of the best.
What about for you, Charles?
We were actually talking about this the other day. We were in Denver 2 years ago. Why were we in Denver 2 years ago? What was the
Craft Brewers Conference?
Yeah, for the Craft Brewers Conference. And we went to this brewery called Cerebral.
Yeah.
And they had this tiki hazy. And I'm sure, we were in Denver, so we were hanging out a lot. And drinking a lot, but man, every time I hear about a beer that comes off as being a tiki beer, or I'm like, I feel like I'm chasing that, and I've never had a beer like it.
Interesting. Well, it was like a pineapple-y thing, or
It
what?
was like they called it a tiki sour, but it was like
I can't remember the name of
sour
it.
IPA that they modeled after a Mai Tai.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
That's okay. That's interesting.
Yeah,
I would like to try this.
It was really good.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, that's, I think you guys, because you talk about brewing that level of IPA, like, of hazy, and I think that you guys are on that list of when you're putting out new stuff, it becomes like, we got to get over there and try it or pick up some to go or whatever it is.
Yeah.
No, I mean, for real, seriously, because I think, personally, the guys at Turning Point have just been slaying it. Yeah. Dom and those guys at False Idol are putting out really good stuff.
Absolutely.
And then, Matt at Celestial, I mean, it's one of those places to me, and you guys are in that little range of those four things.
Thanks, man. That's good company.
Yeah, I think so. And like when you're putting it out, those hazies especially, it's like, oh man, Odd Muse has got some new hazies. We got to get up there. We got to get them.
And that's the thing, right? Back to your question is, why do I like brewing them, right? So for me, it's almost like I'm chasing that dragon, right? So every time I make a new one, I do something a little bit different to try to get to that, like just get it that much better, just a little bit every single time. So every tweak, I learn something different. And so that's to me, that's why I think we put out so many, because I've just been tweaking the shit out of them.
You're trying to get that.
And just,
hey man, don't tell people you've been tweaking.
And in the meantime, everybody gets to taste all these beers that we put out, and really for me, they're just all experiments.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. Because that's almost like you are chasing it, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you might hit it, and you're so wanting to chase it, you may not even know that you hit it.
I know.
Because the one that you were just having, what's the name of this one? The Galaxy one that you're putting out next week?
What is the name of that one? Shit.
You haven't decided yet?
We have the name.
Well, it's a split label.
So I can't remember which one goes with the Galaxy. So there's one for the Nelson and there's one for the Galaxy, and we split the label and we have two different names. And so I can't remember which name goes with the Galaxy. It's either Sea Legs or Landlover, one of the two. But it'll make more sense when you see the label. So
I'm curious.
Yeah.
So I had to go back and look it up like Matt would do.
No worries.
Is the Scotch Ale you're talking about?
We had it last week.
I was gonna say, is it similar to that Kilt?
Yeah, we had the 903 Kilt Switch or whatever.
Oh, I haven't had that one.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Wow.
You like that?
It was good.
I didn't anticipate liking it.
Yeah?
But that thing was good.
Yeah, because that one is it's a wee heavy, so I think it's like 12,
It's a wee
13%.
heavy.
Yeah.
So it was.
Oh man, that's up there.
Super malty,
ours
real
is a wee
caramelly.
heavy, but it's only
ain't that heavy.
9.5 now.
Only
No,
9.5.
Scotch ales to me are super hit and miss because sometimes they're super boozy. And like you're talking about with the peat, like you don't get a lot of that in local Scotch ales, especially, where you get a little bit of that smoke, and if you balance it, the way you described y'all's, I thought was like on point. And that's what I thought made it so, like, I remember having it. I was like, I guess I'll get it. I haven't had it. I'll try it. It's like, I'm not a huge Scotch. I was like, oh my God, this is fucking awesome.
You guys want to try it?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I mean, I'll drink anything you bring over.
Gotcha.
I was shocked that
Thanks.
last week's was good.
Yeah.
I mean, I was really
No, I think
not
you like this one a lot. Like this is
anticipating
really,
liking it.
really good.
Just because that ain't in my wheelhouse, and I was like, the dude's got his kilt on and he's switching. Like, what's he switching to? You know what I'm saying?
I see, obviously, you guys have a shit ton of barrels in here, so you're...
See, me and Bobby had this conversation. Barrel aged in, barrel aged out.
Yeah.
You get me one too, good.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thanks. Woodpecker lips. We're going to try this.
Yeah,
Now, see, this is a lot darker than the one from last week.
It's because it's good.
Woodpecker lips.
I mean, this is a damn good beer. It really
Thank you.
is.
Well, there's some of that in these barrels.
This too is good, my friend.
Yeah, you
I'm glad
get it
you
on
like
the
it.
back. I mean, do you get that smoke? Just a hint, man.
Nah, it's too much of a hint for my unsophisticated palate.
That's good. That is legit.
But it's good for real.
Thank you.
It's a really good beer. What are you barrel aging? You're barrel aging this?
There is some of
Did
this
you
in
like
those
it?
barrels. This beer?
Yeah.
He may not
My
today.
favorite beer.
Sometimes.
I was like,
He's like, I don't know this
This might be my favorite beer that I make.
No, this is good.
Thank you. Yeah, there's some of this in these barrels. There's some
That's good.
a couple different imperial stouts in there too.
Nice.
Yeah, baby.
we'll see.
Bring those stouts out.
Are you guys going to tap that? Are you going to bottle program or?
We don't know yet.
What determines that?
I know. We'll see when it. Well, I don't know. There's nothing that determines it. We just haven't decided yet. I think ultimately probably going to be what they taste like when they come out. So if we feel like they can age well in a bottle, then we might do that. And then we got to figure out how we're going to get them in a bottle because we don't have a bottling line or anything. So it's
with like
logistics.
the crazy like pink wax top that takes you an hour to crack open.
Yeah, let's not do that.
I'm just saying, look,
Got your camping knife out, trying to get it off.
I've had a few from local places that do that, and they're awesome. They're damn good. But I'm like, oh my God, I cannot get this wax off.
Wax on, wax off.
Yeah, there you go. So what's the future for you guys? Like, what's you got
What's
the dream,
next?
you've got the brewery, you're
You
about
got
to
the
be a year
picnic
old.
tables.
Yeah.
Where do you go?
Step one is make it out of COVID.
Yes,
That's
for
step
all
one.
of us.
That's everybody's step one.
Please.
We're almost there. Experimenting with hazies. I want to do start making more stouts. As of right now, we don't.
Yeah,
really do
baby.
that.
I love stouts.
Yeah, we don't do a lot of that, but that'll change. And then Charles really wants me to start doing some sours. So
Really?
yeah, so
Really?
we'll
I like
see.
the sours.
I love sours. Like kettle or?
Probably,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm terrified of bringing any sort of
I
bacteria.
know. I was going to
into
say,
my
like,
brewery.
surely that's one of those things you never know.
Yeah, but yeah,
How come?
I mean,
Because
I
you're dealing
think
with
that's-
fruit?
Well, like the open ferment ones, I mean, like, you know, it's who knows where the hell that thing goes. It could jump into your tanks and you'd
Yeah.
fuck up your whole system.
Yeah, it could be bad.
Like the kettles are way easier, so that's why like a lot of breweries that's what they do because
Yeah, it's
kind of control
safer.
it a little bit more. Yeah, that's
And
the way
now
to put
there's
it.
like a
Safer.
whole nother. There's a bunch of different ways to get that sour flavor into a beer. So
All right. Well, Charles wants sours. What's your favorite sour?
My favorite sour, like locally, or
Whatever. I mean, just
I mean, is it like cherry or is it something else or?
I mean, really, I like the actual sours. I mean, I like fruited sours.
yeah,
But I like them when they're legit funky.
like wild ale almost. Like that's like
Yeah.
crazy.
yeah, ideally,
Jester
I mean,
King.
Like
Yeah,
Jester
yeah.
King?
Like, yes.
You know, we sampled some Jester
Yeah, what'd you think
King.
about that? What'd you think about that Jester King? Is it worth
tastes
all the
almost
hype?
like wine, man. Yes, your boys had some Jester King.
Yeah, we had the modern Dansk or whatever.
Okay.
Dansk. Yeah, and that was he
Yeah.
tried that. That was pretty good.
Yeah,
it was
when
like
I-
super
We're
cherry.
sophisticated beer drinkers over here.
Yeah, I keep telling him I was like, I gotta when Snorkel comes out again, you got to try that.
Snorkel?
That's the one, the mushrooms and oysters and
Oh
stuff that they
man,
do.
I
in
haven't
it.
had
Nah, I ain't
I have
really
not had that.
Nah.
Really?
No.
Yeah, that's
I can't imagine oysters and mushrooms taking like
it's
anything but
interesting.
That's one thing that I want to try. Maybe you'll have to come try it when I make it, but I kind of want to do an oyster stout at some point.
Oh, nice.
I'm with you. I make the same face when he says that. When he said it at first.
Dude.
You guys know Jester King puts out some unbelievable stuff, and then also some stuff that when you sip it, you're like, oh my god, what did it taste like? Somebody pooped in my mouth. Like, I mean, it's but that's their thing because with that style, like
Hit and miss.
who knows?
Oh, yeah.
And then like that, but like I have a buddy, actually my brother and a couple of my good friends live in Austin, and one of them like we'll go to Jester King when I'm down there. And it'll be some sour where I can't stand it. He's like, oh, what are you talking? This is the best thing I've ever had. You know, you just never know because those things are so crazy.
Yeah.
I think it was the first time I went was what got me in. Just because I didn't even really know that it was a. I knew that there were
was
sours,
like
but I didn't know how it was made. I mean, I know they literally lifted the garage door up, let wild shit in.
I got you,
You
yeah.
know what I mean? And to find that out, and then you're like, oh, it's actually palatable. That was kind of intriguing.
That's awesome. So once you get like through your first year, like I guess one thing that I'm curious about is like right now you guys are here, you do to go. Like at what point do you start trying to get into the market?
Yeah. So
Or is that even a thing that you?
It is. We're slowly moving into that. We distribute our kegs locally, so one thing that we're trying to hang on to is local self-distribution.
Yeah.
So when you're, a brewery, you have to sign a contract if you want somebody to distribute your beer, and so when you do that, you forfeit your right to do it yourself, but only in whatever markets or counties that is stipulated in your contract. So we're trying to keep locally our own rights to do it ourselves. So right now, everything that we do locally, we do on our own, and we're a really small operation. So it's me, Charles. I have an assistant brewer and then 2 bartenders, and that is our entire staff.
Crazy.
So that's 5 people.
Our distribution program is me and my forerunner.
You're just self-driving, but that's how you start.
So locally, that's that, right? And we had a contact in Lubbock through a distributor out there. And so we got hooked up with them, and they started taking some of our stuff.
Huh.
So they come and they get some of our stuff, and they take it out to Lubbock, Wichita Falls.
Yeah.
And then I think the biggest thing they got us into is we decided to send 4 cans out. Like when we didn't know how this thing was going to pan out, we knew we had to hit, to go was great, but we also needed distribution. So we signed on with them, and they got us into, there's a new H-E-B opening in Lubbock. And so we've got our four of our lighter beers are going out there. So we've got our Mystic Workhorse, which is our blonde ale.
Yeah.
Backyard Rodeo, which is our German Pilsner. Our Silver Spaceship, which is our sort of, I call it a flagship hazy. I mean, it's turning into that. It's our, lightest hazy that we offer. And then, what's the fourth?
Kind of
our
Hefeweizen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are the 4 beers and those are the only cans that we distribute locally too. We had some at Lone Star Beverages.
Yep. Okay.
And we'll see probably more places here pretty soon. But yeah, those are the only 4 sort of cans that we're distributing. Everything else is out of the tap room. So all the specialty stuff is out of here. All the specialty kegs are local. So the only brands that go out are those 4 that leave the Metroplex at this point. So
That's pretty awesome, though.
Yeah.
I mean, Lone Star is like the mecca of.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
For those that are listening that don't know, I mean, Lone Star, that dude that runs that place over there in Carrollton, man. I mean, Josie, right off Josie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you were looking for something local, I mean, and he brings in stuff that you can't get anywhere.
Oh, absolutely.
You're just like, oh my God, how'd you get this?
Yeah.
He's like, I went and talked to a guy.
Yeah, as far as our cans go, that's one place we sent them, and the other one was Brew City out in is it Euless, I think is where they're at. It's a huge growler bar, I think it is. It's
it always pops up on my not Untapped, my digital pour. I think they have them on there.
Yeah, they are.
And I'm always like, Bruce, like I haven't been there, and I'm like, I got to go over there at some point because they have a ton of stuff. Apparently,
it's interesting because we'll have people that hit us up and they're like, what's your hazy that you got? What's your hazy that you got? Like, well, we got these, but no, what's your hazy? So Brew City's always come through with, what do you got? Oh, I'll take that. I'll take that. I'll take that and that. And we're like, okay, cool. So yeah, they've been awesome. Great to us.
And we like our resellers that are down to also sell. They all want hazies, right?
Yeah.
You send out your emails with hey, I got this haze, and they all, I want them. But it's the ones that'll also take, a Pilsner or some of the other brands that's really helpful.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Because those are good beers too. But again, hazies are what everybody wants.
I know, it's crazy. You guys gonna have an anniversary party coming up?
Man, we hope so.
You think you'll be able to swing one?
Depends on
a safe, socially distanced, masked party. Yeah, we will have one.
So one of the things that we've been
I'll be here for that.
Yeah, one of the things that we've been tossing around is we've got all this space in the back of our brewery. Like there's a big grassy area. There's a big sort of parking lot / driveway that we could easily close down. And our landlord's super cool. They were all about our patio. They're all about, anything that we want, that'll help thrive or the brewery thrive, right? So we feel like they'd be down with that too. So we've been toying around the idea of just closing that whole space down and doing something out there. Where everybody can sort of spread out.
Right.
And it not be elbow to elbow.
All right. Well, guys, man, a lot of fun hanging out with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it. It's Charles, it's Bobby, it's Odd Muse Brewing. It is in Farmers Branch, right off of Spring Valley. You can't miss it. And come hang out on this kick-ass new patio.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Drink one of the 6 hazies or whatever coming out next week.
It's big. If you come to the patio, you can definitely sit and be at least 6 feet away from the next person.
And I will say that, and I think this is really cool, and I think this is why eventually at some point you guys will really blow it up, is every time I've ever been here, at least one of you guys is here. No matter what time, no matter what day, and that does not happen at all local breweries. And when you have owners like that are that passionate, if you come up here and hang out, you're going to meet one of the guys that owns this brewery, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, thank you.
I think it also boils down to us only having 5 employees.
Yeah.
You're right. There's a reason for that.
But right now,
absolutely. It's hard to stay away.
Yeah, when you're new and you're making it happen. Yeah. So I'm glad to see you guys having success. And again, check them out, Odd Muse Brewing in Farmers Branch. As we continue here with you on the podcast this afternoon, again, you may hear some chatter in the back. You may hear some noises. We are on location as we usually are on Thursdays. And this Thursday is when we're recording this for the episode that you will listen to on Friday or whenever. But it is October 22nd for us right now. And it is time for what we do. We did this on the radio, and I know many of you, God, we got a ton of people. What happened? Is Whisper, did I miss it? You didn't miss it. Because it is now time for that information you will not see, hear, or read anywhere else, but right here on Jam Session. From our very own Cowboys insider, 25 plus years inside the Cowboys, Jean-Jacques Taylor brings you Whispers from the Star.
Well, you know, Matt, I try to tell people it's, and we're going to get into Whispers just a second. When you're trying to launch the JJT Media Group, and you're trying to launch the Jam Session podcast, and you're business owners, dude, there's a whole lot of behind-the-scenes work that if Matt ain't doing it, guess who got to do it? It's your boy.
Right.
And if I ain't doing it, guess who got to do it?
Me.
Matt. So the time is sparse. And, you know, this whole Whispers thing started because it's news you can't see here, read, get anywhere else. And that requires time to make phone calls, text messages, have conversations. But it went down so hard this week, Matt, that I had to go do some work. And so I sent out some text messages to people because why?
Because the Cowboys suck and we want to figure out why.
Well, not just that. Not just that. I mean, I have a good reason why they're being bad right now.
Yeah.
But Jane Slater, very good reporter.
Yeah.
She had a report that people inside the locker room, players, are saying, hey, coaches can't coach. Coaches ain't no good.
Right.
Coaches don't know what they're doing. It's them, not us. Now, you know, coaches in meetings are saying, the scheme is great. If you'd have done what you're supposed to do, we'd have had the tackle there. They wouldn't score any points. That's the coach's version of it's them, not us. And you know what happens, man? This is what happens when you got a bad football team. Because everybody's trying to figure out who is to blame, and nobody wants to accept accountability. So, the first thing that goes down is Mike McCarthy. Like, he's got to address his team and figure out, like, where they at, because he's on the verge of losing them. So I talked to some people, man, and I found this interesting. Like, they said McCarthy, and this is kind of public, so I don't think this is a big secret, but they said McCarthy addressed the team and basically said what he said on the flagship station the other day, which is, if you got a problem, my door is open. Maybe I agree with you, maybe I don't, but let's talk about it. Let's not put it out there. Sean Lee had the typical player response. Oh, you know, it's anonymous. They didn't put their name on it. We don't pay any attention to that.
That's such bullshit.
I mean, right, because people, I mean, as I always like to say, Watergate was true. They ain't put their name behind Deep Throat. We still don't know who that is, you know? And then there was Zeke, who's like, his was a more realistic take because it's like, hey, we got to keep that stuff in-house. That means it's true.
Right.
Let's just not tell everybody. Let's work it out ourselves. So I went to somebody, a couple people in the Cowboys organization. I said, dog, can I get some answers? I ain't trying for no house secrets, but tell me, what do you think? And so I had an interesting response. Now, this is just from a couple people, all right? One person said, I don't think those comments came from a current player inside the building. I said, really? Now, you know, I got to tell you, when people inside the building, what are they trying to do, Matt? They're trying to diffuse things.
Right.
So it behooves them, as my mama would say, to be like, nah, I don't really think that came from a player inside the building. All right. You know, but this person said maybe it's one who's been inside the building, but not anymore. And I said, okay, dog, I mean, let's just keep it real, man. Why are you saying that? And this person said, walking around the halls today, the building was much more unified than that story would make you believe. He said, because I talked to a bunch of different players, and it was me just talking to them, not some big gathering, and they were all kind of like, man, we suck, but we're going to fix this. Or, you know, we got to work hard, or we got to do. He said, I didn't get that vibe like that. Now, he did say it's a fair statement that we have some things that need to get fixed. And there's plenty of blame to go around. All right. Now, I did talk to somebody else who said, you know, when you lose, all the trash comes out. Everybody's got a complaint. It ain't the coach's fault. It ain't the player's fault. He said, so that's to be expected. He said, but I don't believe right now that the building is fractured the way some folks want you to believe that it is. He said, we've still got good leadership. I said, do you? I said, because when Dak walked out the door, Dak was the only person who could touch every part of the locker room. What am I talking about?
That's a good point.
Black players, white players,
right.
Wealthy players, broke players, so guys making the minimum. Offensive players, defensive players. first-round draft picks, undrafted free agents. Dak, the only dude, hip-hop, country. Hey, Dak, the only dude who could touch every part of that locker room. And I asked one source this question. Do you think those comments to Slater would have come out if Dak was still playing? And this guy said, absolutely not.
No way. No way.
Now, I'm going to tell you what he said. Why do you think that?
Me?
Yeah.
I think that because of what you were just talking about, like the leader that Dak is. I think to a man, those guys have such respect for him that, and maybe I'm wrong here, but in my mind, I visualize him saying, like almost like the godfather of the mob, where you go, hey, is it cool if I say this? Like somebody's asking me, like, I want to tell him this, and Dak's like, hey, man, let's not put that out there. Like, we're good.
See, I don't think it goes down quite like that. I think it's more like, man, I'm tired of this. This is BS. And Dak says, yo, dog, why you tripping, man? Come on, let's talk about it.
That makes sense.
And then they go talk, and he says, yeah, okay, you're right. It reminds me of this, okay, as I name drop here. Had a conversation with Drew Pearson the other day. Yes, the original 88 for a regional
And he
TV.
likes me.
Yes, he does.
Which is great.
I was interviewing him for this regional TV production company, all right? And he was telling me this story about how Butch Johnson, you know, Mr. California Quake, shaking his butt with his 6 shooters in the air after he scores a touchdown. He said, Butch wanted my job and the Cowboys didn't play me. Now, okay, get this, Matt. They didn't play me in the second half of a preseason game. Now, it wasn't a big deal except that the starters always played 3 quarters. So if you don't play me in the second half, you're trying to send a message to me. So Drew said he went in there yelling and screaming at Gil Brandt and not Tom Landry, but everybody else but Tom Landry. I'll quit. I'll retire. I'm not going to be backing up Butch Johnson or anybody else. What's wrong with y'all? Yeah. And so Tom Landry called him the next day. He said there was no caller ID, so he picked up the phone. And he said if there had been caller ID, it would have went straight to voicemail. But, you know, this is in the 70s, no caller ID. Picks up the phone, it's Coach Landry. And Coach Landry says, hey, Drew, I heard you're upset. Come in and see me. So Drew says he goes in there and see him. He says they have 20, 30-minute conversation. And when it's over, he's apologizing to Coach Landry. I don't know what I was thinking about. I realize it's all about the team. It's not about me. I'm here for you, Coach, whatever's best for the team. That's the effect Dak Prescott has on those cats in the locker room. Right. And so this never, ever comes out. So like any story like this, like I'm not talking about the veracity of Jane's report. All right? Would never do that because I don't know who she talks to, and she's been a good reporter. All right? But the people in the building say they don't get that sense. But, of course, they ain't trying to get that sense because if they get that sense, what does it mean? It means some sad singing and some slow walking a whole lot of times for the rest of this season. Now, there's one guy, Matt, who's on the hot seat this week.
Mike Nolan?
In addition to him, it's bigger than him, and it's called Mike McCarthy. You know, and I'm not saying now. Listen to me now, because Matt threw the bug eyes.
No, I wasn't expecting that name. I was
not
like,
that he's getting fired.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say no way.
He's in the hot seat because I talked to a couple people this week about you're teetering between keeping your team and losing your team. Jesus. You know, and I mean, when people start talking to reporters about coaches can't coach and this and that, you are on the verge of losing your team. And it's not a case where you can stick your head in the sand and say, oh, it'll go away. It won't happen. I once did that with an IRS letter. We all know how that turned out for me. Not good. So you can't just ignore it. You got to address it and attack it. And that's why he talked about it to the team the other day. But I wouldn't ask some people like, you know, what's the deal? Do they believe in him? And, you know, what's going on? And this is what I got back. And this was Monday after that debilitating or embarrassing, pathetic, ridiculous, abject, humiliating performance against the Arizona Cardinals, 38-10. He was really good internally today. And we definitely need a lot more from him, especially right now. So y'all know me. Y'all know me. I asked the question, why right now? And the answer I got was, because we can go one way or the other. Now listen to me. You can stink and be 5-11, or 6-10, or 4-12, or whatever, and not lose a team. All right? Or You can be 5-11, 4-12, 6-10, and completely lose the team. And right now, that dude from Pittsburgh, that old school football guy, that guy who doesn't mind confrontation, that dude got to find some answers. That dude got to figure out is what, like I said, you can't ignore it. Is what the players saying privately true? My coaches ain't coaching? Or are these players making excuses for their lack of performance?
Yeah.
Because don't act like players don't make excuses for their lack of performance. I mean, you could talk to 1 million agents representing Cowboys players right now. It ain't my guy's fault. My guy's great. It's the scheme. It's the coach. It's this. It's that. That ain't always the truth. And so when you get this information, man, you got to filter it through a lot of different lenses to make sure you're providing people with the truth and not some agent's agenda or not some player's agenda. Too many folks don't do this. I ain't naming no names. Too many folks don't do that, and you end up with some wild stories out there, some narratives that ain't really true. Now, dude, I got to tell you, man, I got 2 last things for you, Matt. One of them, I promise you, will have you giving me the bug eyes. I just want to see your expression when I tell it to you. The other thing is, and this is interesting, man. This is really interesting. I was talking to somebody, and he said, we're at that point where we got so many injuries, I don't really know what we're capable of doing this year. Because, he goes, look at our offensive line, man. You think we're going to be able to do something with that? And so then he dropped something on me, man. Now, this is, again, Cowboys have a lot of people in their organization. This is just one person's opinion. He said, don't be surprised if one of 2 things happen. I'm like, well, what is that? We move some people? Or we just let whatever young dudes we have, just put them out there and see what they can do? And I said, really?
You're talking about like a fire sale type thing.
Basically. I said, because, and this is what he said. He said, we ain't really in no good cap management position this year.
No.
All right? Especially next year where we got to pay Dak, and we expect a significant cut in the cap because of COVID.
God, holy shit.
This person was like, getting through this year, he said, I'm keeping it real with you. Getting through this year without a major COVID disruption and planning for 2021 is really not a bad idea.
They're going to trade Amari.
He said, it's really, I don't know about all that because Amari just signed a deal. There's a whole lot of cap hit there.
Yeah, but you got 1 more year on it.
Yeah, I would have to look at the numbers, and maybe you can look at the numbers. I don't know what they are. They go, planning for 21 is probably a pretty good mental approach. Now, here's what it was. You never, ever, ever want to throw in the towel and just say, to hell with this year. But it just seems like we can use this opportunity to learn and game plan more for the future than lying to ourselves about trying to win the championship this year. Now, that's just one man's opinion, but it's a man who's around all the places where these conversations will be had.
Well, whoever that man is, I love him because that's true. Stop lying to yourself.
And that's the whole key. Like Ron Rivera, he lied to himself this year. Like the Washington ain't winning no Super Bowl. So I'm serious, man. So instead of playing a journeyman like Kyle Allen who has no future in the NFL, he's a placeholder, at least remove all questions about Dwayne Haskins. You got 16 games, dog, or 14 games. We're going to see the highs, the lows, the adjustments. We're going to see what you could do. But Ron Rivera said, the division is so bad, we can win it. Dog, if you win the division with a 6-10 record or 7-9 and you get beat 47-7 in the first round, who really cares? Nobody except you and your ego. So that's not the case. But this is a real tricky year, man. They didn't see it coming. And this person is like, this is a good time for a reset. It hurts. It's painful. We didn't plan for it. But a reset is not the worst possible thing. That's what this guy said.
Because to me, when I hear you say that, my brain immediately goes to, okay, who's tradable? Like if you are another team.
Like Yannick
Ngakoue
got traded today. Why? Minnesota's having an awful year. Baltimore said, we trying to win Super Bowl this year. We'll take another pass rusher for a conditional 3rd and a 5th. Can you do that with some guys?
Right, and so my initial question is, because it goes both ways. Like all of you that tweet us and say, they should do this and this. one, they have to be willing to get rid of the player.
Right.
They're not trading Zeke, okay?
No.
They're not.
But Everson Griffin might have some value.
But some other team also has to look at it and say, man, if he was in this system, that's an affordable value. That's why I was sitting here going, and to your point,
Alden Smith might have some value.
Right. Like to your point, the $20 million hit of an Amari Cooper is probably a pipe dream. You know, you're just going to eat it next year and you're going to move on from it anyway. But you're right. I mean, so you look at those guys who are in that range of value where the value to you as a shit team doesn't matter, but the value to whomever it is that is looking for pass rush help or is looking for whatever it is that you're willing to offer, so the match works.
Now, let me tell y'all why you want to see the young guys play. Whoever they are. If it's practice squad, let me see what you got so I can either cut bait with you now or bring you back. Here's why. Dontari Poe, 30 snaps, I believe, in a game where the Cardinals ran it 35 times for 261 yards.
Yeah.
0 tackles. I mean, did y'all hear that? Like, 0. Like, you're not on the score sheet. Like when aliens from Mars come down and visit 50 years from now and look at the game book, they'll be like, well, there's a Poe on the roster, but he wasn't in the game sheet. Tyrone Crawford. Good dude, man. But this ain't about whether you're a good dude or not. 23 snaps. Nothing. No tackles. No assists. Nothing but a taunting penalty on a drive where the Cardinals went down to score to make it 14-0. Dude, you can put Matt McLaren in the starting lineup, and I promise you, he'll get you no tackles.
Easily.
You can put your boy, JJT, me. You put me out there, 3-point stance. One technique. I'm not going to get you a tackle.
See, I look at it, and like this has really prompted a vast curiosity in me, because now I sit there and I am looking at this and I'm saying, okay, well, who can you move? You know, Tyron Crawford, for instance, is
he ain't got no value, man. He got bad hips,
and his problem is he's a $9.1 million cap hit next year.
Now I want to tell y'all something.
Now, his dead cap, you could say, he's a $1 million dead cap. He won't be on the team next year.
No. But I want to be perfectly clear. All right, perfectly clear. I don't believe this is a lack of effort. Okay? Tyron Crawford plays as hard as anybody. This is a lack of I'm old and I can no longer play. You know what I'm saying? This is Dontari Poe. Go look at the tape. Go look at the all-22 game pass. If you got it, go look at it. Watch how many times this dude who's supposed to anchor gets driven back 2 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards. Dude, it's not from a lack of effort. He just can't play no more, and it happens. That's why you don't pay age in this age during free agency.
But because, again, this is what's wonderful about having a podcast. And for many of you that have said, man, I actually like this better than the radio show, we do too, because we don't have to stop. We can explore these ideas. And so you're sitting here, you've got a guy inside the Cowboys organization, not necessarily saying it's going to be a fire sale, but saying that could be an option.
That's not, that's something to consider, something you have to discuss.
But I look at it and I say, okay, so let's say that happens. Let's say Washington beats them and Philadelphia beats them, and they're 2-6 going into the bye. And you're done. And so you're like, who do you want?
I played Ben DiNucci, dog.
Outside of Griffin and Alden Smith, who on this team does somebody want? They would look at, because I look at it and go, who wants Darryl Worley? Nobody. Jordan Lewis and guys like that and Cheeto are free agents at the end of the year. Why would you trade for them? There's no value there. Those may be the only two guys who oddly enough, I don't consider like Cowboys, because they were brought in as almost like mercenaries this year.
Right.
In a sense, you know.
And here's the last thing I got for you, man.
All right.
The last thing I got for you, Matt, it blew my mind when I found out. And I thought to myself, well, damn, I wonder. See, we've all said this whole time, why will Mike Nolan not get fired? Mike McCarthy.
Nepotism.
Mike McCarthy is his boy.
Right.
That's like me firing you. Ain't gonna happen.
No, sir.
I need somebody to put the audio equipment up. Not gonna happen.
I'm just a guy.
Yeah, not gonna happen. That's my boy.
Hell yeah,
Can I tell you something, Matt? Are you ready?
Yes.
Are you ready? Mike Nolan recruited Will McClay and got him to sign with Rice. Mike Nolan, yes, your defensive coordinator, recruited 18-year-old Will McClay and got him to sign on the dotted line and go to Rice. And Will McClay's mama told her son, I ain't never met a white man I liked until I met Mike Nolan. Boom!
Come on.
Now, what I tell you, Matt, don't come here half-stepping, brother. This is JJT. This is Whispers from the Star. That news you can't see here we get anywhere but the Jam Session Podcast. Fridays, whenever you listen to it.
Exactly. That's crazy. For real?
For real, my brother.
Will's got his back?
I assume so.
That's okay. And again, for those of you that don't like profanity, it's happening. We're fucked. This franchise is fucked.
Hey, man, I just put this there.
You're kidding me. What you just said, you're kidding me.
It's true, brother.
Do you realize this? The Cowboys franchise record from a few years ago for points allowed defensively is and I don't remember the exact number. I was looking at it earlier today. I think it's 436. It's in that range.
Hey, man, sometimes you got to fire your friend.
Do you realize they're on pace to give up over 500 points? And you're telling me that dude has got defense? That somebody's got that dude's back?
I'm just giving you facts. That's McCarthy's homeboy. Fact, okay? He recruited Will McClay and got him to sign with Rice. Fact, and Will McClay's mama said that's the first white man I ever met I liked. Fact. Now, you can make all your interpretations you
having
want.
that?
I'm just giving you facts.
You are not about to just break the record. You're about to, remember when Debbie did Dallas? This is Debbie doing the country. Debbie's doing the country as the Dallas Cowboys defense. But, hey, that's cool, apparently. That pisses me off. It does. You know what happens to me is because I think about this all the time. And I think I've mentioned this the other night on Monday when we came into the podcast. I wonder, and here's the problem. This is the problem with the Cowboys. We know, because we've seen it, we know they can win championships. We know what this franchise can be about. And that was their problem. And I said this about the Rangers. The Rangers' problem was you got to the World Series because I was cool. I had accepted. I love a team and root for a team that's never going to win. And I was fine. But when you tricked me and told me I was one strike away from it, then I know you're capable of it. And so the problem with these damn Cowboys is I know you're capable of it because this damn owner and all of us that are pissed that, as long as Jerry's a GM, whether Jimmy Johnson recruited the players and made it all happen and figured it out or not, Jerry's a GM when they won Super Bowls. So they're capable of doing it. They're just not because they don't care anymore. And that sucks. The franchise sucks. We continue here on the Jam Session Podcast. Jean-Jacques Taylor, Matt McLaren, and again, hanging out live on Thursday. Now, many of you will listen to this whenever you listen to us, but it's October 22nd to us. And usually on Thursdays, we're live at a local brewery. Now, for many of you that know, I'm very passionate about local beer. And I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Bobby and Charles, the owners and founders, the brewer of Odd Muse Brewing Company, where we're at today in Farmers Branch. And I told Bobby, I was like, he said that thing about chasing the dream. And that identifies so much with me that I was like, maybe that's why I love craft beer, because my whole life has been spent chasing this dream that I had when I was 19 years old of being on the radio, which has now evolved into this podcast. I tweaked the dream a bit. But I
still the same dream.
I mentioned this when we signed off the air 2 weeks ago, that podcasting never existed when I was 19 years old. There was no podcast.
Right.
But now doing this, I love doing this. And I have a new dream with this podcast. And I think we share the same vision for it. And talking to Bobby and Charles today, I just thought, man, that's why I love local. Because a lot of the times local are people like us from the grassroots, man. We started this podcast. We ask for your support, all of you who are listening. If you own a local business or know somebody who does, for us to keep this going, we need your help, man. And we need your sponsorship. And we'll get the word out. We got a lot of people that are listening to this. You can send us an email at jamsessioncast@gmail.com, and I will send you some information. But we've put together some sponsorship packages that are really affordable. I mean, it's basically like if you have $100 a month that you feel like you can give, we can find a way to help you get the word out about your business.
No, I think it's it. And I think it's, with the podcast, it's all about grow together. Because just like our radio show went from 31st or 30th in the marketplace to number 11, the podcast is going to grow. So, I mean, it's just a matter of how long it takes, whether it takes 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year. It's going to happen. And trust us, we'll remember our friends who grew with us.
No, for real.
At the beginning.
And several of you have reached out about it, and I tell you, I'm actually, like, we put together some packages that are less than what the market value essentially would be. But just because, like, hey, man, I appreciate so many of you that have reached out. And that's why I love, whether it's local breweries or local food or whatever it is locally, because these are a lot of the times a family or a husband or a wife or whatever that had a dream that said, you know what, I'm going to do this, and I want to make it work and figure out how. And that's why I talk about a lot of local breweries so much, is because once we're on the radio or here on the podcast, I recognize, man, we have a voice, and I can help these people chase their dream in a way that others can't, because a lot of you out there are helping us chase our dream. And I know, it's super sappy, but...
Yeah, because you're getting all emotional, man.
I mean, for real, man, it means a lot to me. It really does. Like, I don't know. This is all I ever wanted to do in my life.
This is true. Matt said that quite a bit.
It is. And so when you realize, like, I accepted at one point. It's like, you know what? I'm either going to be really rich like Howard Stern, because I'll just be like this Howard Stern radio guy.
Right.
Or I'm just going to be a radio guy, and I probably will never make more than 6 figures a year. Like, at max, I'll max out at like $70K a year or whatever.
But you'll be happy.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm totally cool with that.
Well, it's a fun job to get up and do every day. To go talk and
Right.
hang out and be one with the people.
Yeah, and see, there are a lot of things in the podcast at some point I feel like we should get into, like the way I was raised and what I thought about life and whatnot, and probably for you as well. I think that'd be interesting. We'll do that at some point.
I mean, I keep reminding Matt, we're our own bosses. We do whatever the hell we want to do.
You want to do it now? It's up to you.
Okay, fine.
Okay,
I ain't got nowhere to be right now.
All right, so let me tell you this.
You know why? Because I'm my own boss. And it's the middle of rush hour.
When I was a kid, I went to elementary school in Plano. All right, my parents grew up in Plano. That my dad was. I've always thought this was fascinating. We might have my dad on the podcast sometime, because I thought this was fascinating about my dad. My dad was one of the highest recruited defensive players in the country.
Really?
When he was in high school. Yeah. Joe Paterno came to his house.
Wow.
To recruit him. He could have gone anywhere. He decided to go to OU because Chuck Fairbanks recruited him. And to this day, he always says, if Barry Switzer had recruited me, I would have gone to Texas or somewhere else. Like, I wouldn't have gone to OU. Wow.
Why does he hate Switzer?
See, and this would be an interesting conversation. He just didn't like him. I won't say he hated him.
He just didn't like the dude.
Yeah, like Jimmy Johnson was his defensive line coach, and he loved Jimmy. Like, to this day, just the way that Jimmy Johnson treated my dad as a football player at OU for whatever reason. And I've always found that very fascinating. Like, it blows my mind that, and today, like, we would have known it, like, he'd be on wherever and you'd know about him. But back, who cares? You're a top 10 recruiter, whatever, at your position, who cares? In 1970s, there's no 247sports.com,
right?
Obviously. But I've always thought that was interesting. That Bobby Bowden came and recruited him and Paterno and like these big names that people know. But anyway, so my life, and this is what's really weird to me, I did not realize that my family was well off until I went to college.
Okay, that's because you have to define well off.
Because so we bounced around a little bit, but I ended up in 7th grade, we moved to Rockwall, which was 1992 for me. And Rockwall, for those that don't know, believe it or not, is the smallest county in Texas.
Really?
It's also the wealthiest county in Texas.
Who knew?
Because it's so small. That's part of the reason why. And so in Rockwall, when you grow up, I grew up on a street where we had $1 million homes on the street. We did not have by any measure of the imagination.
Right.
So when you're driving past these houses every day, I was like, oh, we're all right, I guess. Like, we had an acre of property and we did good, and I never felt like I needed for anything.
Right.
And then I went to college, and I met people, and I would go visit where they lived, like go home with them for a weekend or whatever to meet their families. And I was like, wow, like.
Okay, where were they going to?
They're
like 322s or?
No, but like just
neighborhoods.
Yeah, like just different structures than what I was used to. The home that I consider my grow up house was a 4-bedroom, I think, maybe with a 5th like little study area, you know, a couple of like 3 bathroom, like it was a 2-story nice house with the pool and all that. But you know, you drive down the street and be like, oh, I mean, they're on the lake. That's
living.
Yeah. And so for real, like it never hit me. And so when I started to get older, the way that I grew up, my dad, who busted his ass, I mean, my dad worked his ass off and deserves everything that came his way. You know, my dad made more money at his age than like way more than I'm making at the same age.
Right.
You know, so I mean, this is real. This is what I love about doing this, because this is a real conversation. It was really hard for me when I was younger to accept that I was not making the type. I don't know why I did this. I compared myself to my dad for whatever reason.
Probably because a parent's goal is to have their kids do better than themselves. The issue, though, is everything you said is about a financial comparison.
Well, and it was more than that, though.
Okay.
Like this is, like for me, it was because my dad at 26 was married for 6 years, and I was born when they were both 26.
Right.
And I was like, so at 26, damn, he's been married 6 years. He's successful. You know, he's on the way. He has a nice house, like a decent house at 26 that I was born in. And he has a kid. And then when I was 26, I started getting around 25. Like, shit, you know, like I should I be married? Am I, you know, and
that's interesting, because I never once even thought like that.
See, it isn't. That's why it's interesting to me. Like, I don't know why. I don't know if it's because I was the oldest child, and so I had a barometer for success, and the only barometer that I knew was my dad, because I thought my dad was very successful, and he's like, you know, my dad's like my hero. Like, I've always thought my dad is like this kick-ass human being.
Right.
And I don't know, man. But it took, I mean, that's why I got married originally. I mean, because I thought I was supposed to do this and have a kid and do this lifestyle. And when I realized one day that it wasn't making me happy and I changed the way I was living, it was a really difficult thing. And now at the age I'm at, I love what this is. I don't even care. Like, I don't, yes, I'd love to be financially free, but I love doing what we do. I love this, so I feel free.
Well, you know, I always had the thought that I was always really good at what I did. And so I was always consumed. And part of this is I went to Ohio State, many of you know, because, well, here's the backstory. My parents were both doing their doctorate work at the University of Buffalo. They got divorced. My mom moved to Dallas to work for the Dallas Independent School District. We came here. My dad moved first to Cincinnati, stayed there for about 8 years, and then he went to Ohio State.
Was that tough for you? Do you remember at the time that you had to go with your mom and not your dad?
Nah, it wasn't tough. I mean, it's just the way it is. I mean,
how old are you?
Huh?
How old are you?
6. Like, I mean.
Okay, so you'd be super attached to your mom then.
But I can still remember, like, it seemed like I wrote an essay about it at one point in middle school or something. Like, I remember my dad packing up the red VW Bug.
For your mom? For y'all?
No, that's what he took. And driving off. I remember all of that.
Damn,
but see, the thing is, my parents always had a very good parental relationship. There was none of that, your dad sucks or your mom's crazy. There was none of that. Matter of fact, I tell y'all all the time, my mom literally sent us to Cincinnati with my dad the Saturday that school was out on the 8 o'clock flight.
Really?
Every summer. And we came back the Friday before school started. Every summer.
So you're out there like 3 months or whatever it was.
Yeah. Every summer from the time I was like 7 or 8 until I was 14. So, you know, so I had a good relationship with my dad. So when I went up to go to school up there, and my dad gives the best advice ever. But the thing he always told me, I mean, he told it all the time, don't chase money. Do the work, chase success, be good at what you're going to do. And when you do that, the money will come. So I never worried about how much money I'm making, because I'm like, as long as I'm good, because journalists don't get paid a lot.
No,
but I always took the approach of it doesn't matter what profession you have. The people who are the best get paid. The best garbage man might make $37 an hour, and the other guys who aren't good might make $20 an hour.
Yep.
If you're the best, you get paid.
Yep.
Whatever you do. So I always only focused on being the best, and I figured if I was the best, the money would come. That's why I used to tell my.
That's how I've always seen it.
See, I used to tell both my wives, not at the same time. Like I live for the day for you to make more money than me. Some dudes are like, I don't want my wife making more. Like,
who cares?
But I was more like, I know what my potential is. So if you want to outmake me,
that's how I've always seen it.
Go do your thing, girl, because I'm going to get paid at some point in this profession.
I remember when I first got into, I've always been blown away that, to me, people were like, what this? I was like, this is what I do. I have zero. It's never crossed my mind that I wouldn't be successful doing this. Ever. Right. And you know that. I've shared some of my, the way that I plan things and the way that I look at stuff and all that. But it's really interesting the way that you grow up in a sense that it took me a long time to figure out that this was cool, and to my parents' credit. And I will say this, a lot of people meet my parents and they are some of the best people I think that you could ever meet.
They are.
They really are.
I love them both.
My mother is.
She's a saint.
She is.
She baked me chocolate cookies.
My mom who loves being a mom, who was such a wonderful mom. And our dad who, I have really cool, and everybody I've ever dated, everybody I've ever been friends with is like, dude, your parents are fucking awesome.
They are.
And they're really good people.
They are.
But at the same time, it's interesting because you're talking about they met when they were 16.
Which is crazy to me.
They got married at 20.
Which is crazy to me.
They've been together for 47 years in marriage.
Which is crazy to me.
So when that's your example, I grew up like that, and I was like, okay, am I doing something wrong because I'm not this? And, it took me a while to figure out that it doesn't matter if I'm that. It's totally cool to be who you are and to be what I am, which I love now. I love my life. I love who I am. I finally got to a point where I have a lot of inner peace.
Right. See, I've always had that.
I chased for a long time, man. I chased and chased. I left relationships. I left situations because I was so driven by getting what I wanted out of my career that it was difficult for me to see anything else. And so now I have finally realized the balance of happiness, I guess.
Yeah.
In a sense.
Well,
But you were successful super early, though.
Yeah.
Because you went from the high school beat to fucking covering the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, but see, for me, I was so, I was that kid. I told somebody this the other day. I can't remember who it was, but he asked me something about my career. I said, dude, I was that guy. In high school, I'd go to the game, kiss my girlfriend. I see her at halftime. Go up to the press box. Come back at halftime, give her a kiss, squeeze her butt. Go back up to the press box. I see you after the game. And so.
But did you know that you were that at the time?
Did I know what?
That you were the guy. That you knew it.
Yeah. I have an ego. Doesn't take much to convince me.
You don't? Wait.
But
hold on a second. Hold on. You have an ego. We have breaking news.
But it's a manageable ego. No, this is a true story. And I've told some of you guys this. Some of you may have heard it. I don't know. Maybe I told Matt. I can't remember. But it's true. But, my mom got the Times Herald, so I read Times Herald every day.
Yeah.
Well, I catch the bus in the morning. I would steal the Dallas Morning News every morning from a different paper. One day I'd take it from this house. The next Tuesday I'd take it from that house. Wednesday.
Smart.
And so I was never taking it. I would never steal your paper 2 days in a row.
Yeah, so get over it, guys.
Right. And then I'd start the next week. I'd work backwards, and then I'd work in the middle. So, I just, I had a very sophisticated paper stealing habit.
Yeah.
So I'd been reading the paper from times like 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old.
Shit, that's wild to me.
So I worked on the paper in middle school, whatever, it's good. And I got in a journalism class in 11th grade. I wrote a story, never forget it. Skyline went to Longview, played Pine Tree High School. My boy, Byron Thompson, kid I'd known most of my life because our parents were friends. He died shortly after high school, had cancer, I think.
Damn, dude.
He kicked a 25-yard field goal, won the game 3-2. Yes.
No shit, really?
So I wrote the story, and my journalism teacher,
That's crazy.
Judy Babb, great journalism teacher, because she's still teaching right now at West Mesquite. She says to me, she pulls me aside and she goes, now remind you, this is my first story at Skyline. She goes, this is one of the best stories I've ever written. Who taught you how to do this? And I go, nobody. I just been reading the paper all the time. I just kind of had it by osmosis.
Yeah.
She goes, oh my God, you're like a prodigy. I said, really?
Yeah.
What is a prodigy? And so the reason I say this is I left high school because of her with so much confidence and so much belief in myself that I didn't really care what other people said about you can write, you can't write, you do, you can't do. I'm like, I'm 112 letter cuss word.
See, that happened to me too, because the first time, so my uncle, this is going way back. My uncle owned a radio station in East Texas, KMOO Radio,
so it's in your blood.
In Mineola. And so I didn't know at the time, but we go visit my grandparents and they lived out in Quitman. And we would go up to my uncle's radio station and I'd do like the weather or whatever.
Right.
I didn't think anything of it. But I was 19 years old. I originally went to college on a theater scholarship.
I tell people that.
Yeah, and so I was an actor. Like I wanted to be an actor. And I transferred and I went to Howard Payne. I went to Collin County Community College. Oh, theater scholarship, whatever. Collin County is still, I believe to this day, the only community college to win the American Collegiate Theater Festival.
Oh my.
Which is like winning the national title of theater. And I went there the year after they won. And that's why I went there, was because they were that big. I mean, I tried to go to NYU and all kinds of places for theater.
Did you?
Yeah, I applied everywhere for theater. And so I don't know. I had a falling out. It didn't work. I was a little immature. So I transferred to Howard Payne University.
Shocking.
I was very immature at 18. And I go to Howard Payne University in Brownwood. I was doing theater out there.
Right.
And the reason why I went there is because two of my very best friends to this day, one of them is still preaching and was a youth minister. The other one was a youth minister and now is an atheist. Whatever. Yes, we should have him on sometime.
Yeah, we should.
I
figured one of them is Brandon. Who's the other?
Yes, one of them is Brandon. The other one's Tim, who begged you to unblock him at the draft.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's funny because I'm at Howard Payne. It's like, I hate being here. But one of our friends goes, man, the student radio station is holding auditions. And I was like, I don't know. I do acting. I don't know about radio. He goes, you have a really good voice. You should try it. So I was like, well, I've never really done it. So I don't know. So I schedule an audition. I go and I sit down. This is a true story, same as your shit. And I do my audition. The guy, you have like those advisors or whatever in college. Guy comes out of his office, opens the door, and he goes, we only take people that are like students that haven't done this before. It's like, I've never done this before. He goes, you've never done radio before?
Nope.
And I said, no. And in my head, I'm like, my God, it was that bad. Like, Jesus. And he goes, I'll never forget this. And he told me, he said, I've been doing this for over 20 years. You are the most natural I've ever heard.
See?
And that's when I felt it too, like when I sat down. And it's happened along my way. Radio's a bitch, man. Radio is a weird fucking career.
Well, let me, as you say that.
There's so much that's out of your control with radio.
My goal when I became a columnist at the Dallas Morning News, the first person to ever go from intern to columnist at the Dallas Morning News.
Look at that, you 9-incher.
Yeah. My goal was to immediately get a radio show. Why?
Really?
Well, yeah. I mean, to be honest with you. Why? Because that's how you get rich. You're a columnist.
Are you high?
No, listen to me.
Radio?
You're a columnist. You get a radio show. If you're a columnist, you're being well compensated.
Yeah, for the column. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
If you're a
like
radio
Galloway
show
or
host,
whatever.
exactly. You take all the money you make from radio and you bank it.
I got you.
And that's how you get rich.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to spend it.
Yeah, because if you're doing that, like if you're Galloway or Kalashaw and you've already got the bank for the Dallas Morning News, you're making $125 a year from radio.
That's how you get rich.
Right, yeah.
Seriously. That was my goal. And so, but listen to me. My goal was never for radio to be my wife. My goal was always for radio to be my side chick.
Radio will never be your wife. You can love the shit out of it, and that bitch will cheat on you.
I mean, look what happened. Like, that's why when I got laid off from ESPN, in part for making way too much money, No, I'm serious. That's why I got laid off.
I know. That's how that's why I got laid off.
I got laid off at ESPN when I had my best year, when I won awards, when I got. I mean, it was by far my best year.
We achieve it.
So I got laid off. So that meant I still had the radio show, but I was doing TV with NBC. That was cool too. I'm still 2 jobs. I'm still good. Well, then NBC had a contract issue. Blah 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 blah. Well, when radio becomes my only gig, that was 2 years ago. I spent 2 years trying to figure out, okay, what else can I do? Because I don't want this. It's too volatile. With a wife, with kids, with responsibility. It's too volatile for it to be my main thing. I got to have something else that I can count on, that I can rely on, because everything I've heard from everybody who's ever been in radio is at some point it's going to screw you. Yep. At some point.
It's super fickle.
So then we got these great ratings, and I go, that's your boy, JJT.
And
I have defied radio. I laugh in your face, radio.
We did what they didn't think we were going to do. We did it. And I had zero doubt. I knew we were going to do it. Because that's what we do.
And then radio got me. But luckily, I'd already
started. It bent you over and it prison raped you.
Jeez.
It did.
But I'd already started my other business a couple months earlier. That's my saving grace. And that business, the JJT Media Group, has done way more than I ever envisioned after only like 3 months, dude. I'm like, wow. And so, so that's why I can do the podcast in peace, because I know the podcast will be good, just like the radio show was good.
I love doing this.
And,
I love this conversation. Yeah, it's fascinating to me because I've been in radio since I was 19 in some form or fashion. And my brother, and me and my brother grew up, we're super, super close. We're
Which
2 years
brother?
apart. Chris. And I love Mark, my youngest brother.
Do you really?
Well, no, now I think Mark and I are a lot closer than how can you be close to somebody that was in kindergarten when you were a senior in high school?
Okay.
Until you get older. But me and Chris lived the battles of life and family and all this shit that we went through, whatever.
Right.
And so we would get to a point, and I got to say that, Chris told me a long time ago, because I was like, dude, what am I doing? Like, I'm so dumb for picking this career and all this shit. And he goes, you know what? And Chris makes good money. I mean, he owns like 4 companies and he does all this shit.
Right.
And he goes, man, I always wondered what it would be like to be you. I said, what do you to be poor? What are you talking about? He goes, to have a passion. He's like, I'm not passionate. He's like, I realized a long time ago, I'm not passionate about anything. So I just figured out, all right, well, I'll just do something to make money. He goes, I don't know what it's like to wake up every day and be as passionate about what you're doing. Like, I feel like that would be pretty awesome. And I'll never forget that, because when I go through hard times, I think back to that, and I was like, man.
Well, I think whether it's passion or not, I think the bigger issue is that most people don't like their jobs. It's just something that they do to make money. It's something that they feel a slave to it because you have to do it. They don't look forward to going to work. It's not fun for them. Well, what are you doing? Oh, well, it's a job. They're counting down the hours to retirement. They don't be like, oh, okay, yeah, we get to tape today.
I know you get so, I'm like, yeah,
we're going to talk for a couple hours about whatever the heck it is we feel like talking about. They don't get to do that. And so most people are really, they're happy for you because, wow, you look like you really enjoy your job. You got such a fun job.
Like, you're so crazy. What's wrong with you?
And a lot of it's because they really wish, and that's what I tell young people, man, is including my son. Go find something you like to do, man. If I tell this from my brother. You talk about Mark. My brother is 23 years younger than me.
Yeah.
And I tell him, he's trying to be in the music industry. Okay, if you can't be on the mic in front of the crowd, yo, dog, it's 1,000 jobs in the music industry. Go find one. You can hang out there.
Indeed.
Matter of fact, I told him a few weeks ago, do a music podcast, brother. I mean, but do something in your deal.
There's avenues to pursue your passion.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. What a conversation that was.
Okay, it's over.
You want to keep going?
I mean, I'm good.
I mean, welcome to the podcast.
I'm 3 beers in.
This is what I love about the podcast, because we can explore these issues that You know what's funny about that conversation we just had? If we did it on the radio, management would be screaming through the glass, no, don't do this. But
What
this
are
is
you
real
leaving
life,
people
man.
with?
You know? This is real. This is reality.
Yeah.
And I love it. I love doing this, and I think just really appreciative of all of you that have supported us and helped us to get this going. And again, if you own a local business and you're interested in helping us out, shoot us an email. We got some packages put up, jamsessioncast@gmail.com.
And hopefully, Jam Session Media will be up and running next week.
Yeah, we have our own on our YouTube channel. And again, we're going to have a lot of stuff coming up. We're at Oak Highlands Brewery Fridays. So those of you that are listening to this on Friday morning, October 23rd, we'll be at Oak Highlands Brewery at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Friday afternoon doing a live YouTube and a live show out there for you. So check that out. Subscribe today by searching Jam Session Podcast everywhere. You can find us on Twitter at McMattRadio, at JJT_journalist. Director of Creative Content is Brian Hart. Thanks to Purple Elephant Music, the music you hear at the end and beginning of each episode. He's a radio and TV star, the sexy Jean-Jacques Taylor. I'm just a guy, Matt McLaren. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and review this episode. And we'll catch you next time on the Jam Session Podcast, available everywhere you listen to podcasts.